Welcome back. It's episode 124 of the Hockey Cards Gongshow podcast. My name is Josh. I'm here with Troy. What's going on, Troy? How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing?
Great. We had kind of a busy weekend, show-wise. Pretty fun. We had our fantasy hockey draft that we do in our Discord server. Well, it's the first time we're doing it on, Friday night? And we had, 20 people join with basically two divisions. And everyone connected in the Discord via the video chat or lounge feature, whatever they call it. We had a great time. And so thanks everyone who participated in that. And we have our 5K challenge that's due, tonight as we're recording on Sunday night. It's due at midnight tonight, so Central Time. So we're really busy. Have you done yours yet?
No. But I figure since I'm not going to win I can't win the box, so
yeah,
I'll try to get it done tonight, but I guess I give myself a little leeway since I'm not really in it.
Oh, Troy only wants to participate when he can win the big prize.
Yeah. No, I just got busy this weekend. I was going to do it this weekend, and then stuff happens.
Well, this is kind of our last off-season show, right? Because when we come back on Thursday, there will be actual NHL games.
Games.
And we'll have goals scored, hopefully. And it would be weird if there weren't any goals scored by Thursday. But yeah, the off-season flew by, huh?
It did. It really flew by. I guess when you have a show twice a week and talk about it all the time, get excited, it can kind of go fast.
We have a lot planned for today. We're going to conclude our 2023-24 preview series and some other good information, I hope, that we have planned. But before we do get started, just a quick reminder that the Hockey Cards Gongshow podcast is a Patreon podcast. That means we rely on support of listeners like yourself to help us cover our show expenses, produce more and hopefully better hockey card content, and promote the hockey hobby even in a small way. Right now, you can join our out of $199 support level tier and forever have that title. You get access to the Discord server and the ability to play with us in like fantasy hockey and participate in the 5K challenge and just chat with everyone on a day-to-day basis. I think that we can actually say that we're developing friendships now. It went from we had a few people when we started our Discord a year ago, and then you kind of got to know people. And I think that's one of the things that really stood out to me on Friday is just how it just felt like a group of friends hanging out. And so that made me feel very good about that little community that we're developing there. It starts at $5 a month. It's really easy to do. It's via Patreon, so you can go to our website, hockeycardsgongshow.com, and click on the Become a Patron link at the top of the page, or you can go to Patreon directly at patreon.com and search for Hockey Cards Gong Show. There's links in our show description and our YouTube description on whatever podcast app you're listening to us on or watching us on YouTube. And if you're on social media, you can find a link to our Patreon via our Instagram and TikTok profiles in our link tree. Troy, we have 3 new patrons since our last show, so that's pretty awesome. Thank you very much to Dog is Pilot, who joined on a $199 tier, Andy B, and Jets Collector. Very, very nice. All right, Troy, you ready for the game plan, man?
I am. On today's show, we begin with the almost greatest NHL player to wear number 24 for episode 124. Then we continue our 2023-24 NHL season preview series by looking at some key hobby storylines for the upcoming season. Then it's off to hobby news, followed by new product releases. We then tackle our weekly mailbag, and it's a big one. And we finish with personal pickups. Okay, Josh, we ran through the Hockey Writers' greatest NHL players to wear each number article list. And the more I thought about this, what I wanted to do, I just really liked this segment. I really liked learning about players and looking at their rookie cards and all that stuff. So I took a look back and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to continue it for now, but I'm going to repurpose it. So now it's going to be the almost greatest NHL player to wear each number using the same article, because that article did have runners up, which I added, 20 episodes ago to start giving people a better idea of who the candidates were in each number. But this one is Troy gets to pick which one he thinks is the almost greatest. And some people might not agree. It's going to be people I want to learn about. Like today's episode. I will say it right now. It's Bernie Federko, who I definitely remember as a player in the 80s growing up as a kid. Definitely remember his hockey card. I always got him confused with Rob Ramage. I don't know why. I guess because he had a mustache. They kind of look the same, but that's who we're going to do today. And another little note about the segment, there might be some pretty unknown players because we definitely had some unknowns in the greatest to wear each number article. And then when you go down into here, we might have some pretty unknown players. It'll still be fun to learn about them and all that. I can't wait. Let's get going. So
Makes me think of the movie Almost Famous because you have almost most famous.
Yeah, that's true. All right. So I kind of gave away who it is, but the almost greatest NHL player to wear number 24, per the Hockey Writers' greatest NHL players to wear each number article, is Bernie Federko. As a reminder, the greatest to wear number 24 was Chris Chelios.
I don't think there's any controversy there.
No controversy there. I think there might be one or two numbers where we'll have a controversy if I remember right.
Mm-hmm.
So let's look at Bernie Federko. Hold on. I got to bring his picture up. Holy cow. What are we doing here? All right. Overview. Center from Foam Lake, Saskatchewan. I love that name.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Foam Makes Lake. Me think of like so we were mid-90s, right? We were ending high school and college, and they used to have like those foam parties on spring break. Do you ever go to like Mexico or anything like that?
Oh, geez. I never got to participate in one of those because my spring breaks consisted of always going to basically spring training for college baseball. We'd always make a trip and play like a week's worth of games in a warm weather because in Minnesota, it's really hard to have games in spring break unless you're going to play at the Dome or something.
I forgot you were one of those fancy athlete types that did sportsing on spring break.
Sportsing is fun. I did one of those guys. All right, Federko is the 7th overall pick in the 1976 NHL amateur draft by the St. Louis Blues. Federko played in 1,000 regular season NHL games over a 14-season NHL career. Thank God he didn't have Mike Babcock as his coach because he probably would have stopped him at 999 just to show his power and authority over him. But he got to the magical 1,000, thank God.
All right, you might get into this, but did he just retire after game 1,000, or did it just happen to be that the last game of the season was game 1,000?
I believe he played. I think he played the full season, his last season, and then retired. I believe, and that was his 1,000th NHL game. So I don't think he made it to 1,000 and then retired. I think it was his 1,000th, but I could be wrong.
Yeah,
I'm just going off the top of my head. I could probably look.
There's lots of Bernie Federko experts out there that I'm sure will correct.
I'm sure there will be. All right, Federko played his first 13 seasons in the NHL with the St. Louis Blues. He finished his career with one season with the Detroit Red Wings.
Don't you hate when players do that?
I know, because you always get that other card, and I want them all with the guy or the team they played 99% of their career with.
That they're most identified with.
Yeah, definitely. For his awards and accomplishments, Federko is in the Hall of Fame. 2-time NHL All-Star Game selection. His number 24 is retired by the St. Louis Blues. That's what we got for the awards and accomplishments, which I'm assuming as we go in this list, it won't be like these other guys we had where it's like 15 different items. We'll be a little shorter on these. But for his career, Federko had 369 goals, 761 assists, which was 43rd all time, for 1,130 points, which is 61st all time. Federko made the playoffs in 11 of his 14 NHL seasons, compiling 35 goals, 66 assists for 101 points in 91 NHL playoff games played. Best season of his NHL career from the point standpoint was his 1983-84 season, where Federko had 41 goals, 66 assists for 107 points in 79 games played. Federko scored 30 or more goals in 7 of his 14 NHL seasons. He also had 100 or more points in 4 of his NHL seasons. So no slouch there from a point production standpoint.
No.
He was just a consistent NHL point producer during his career, led the Blues in scoring 9 times, including 8 in a row from 1978 through 78-79 through 85-86. After his playing career, Federko has spent more than 20 years as an analyst and studio host on Blues telecasts. And I believe he's currently still with Bally's, the Blues broadcast in Bally's, doing that kind of work. So he's made a nice little career after his playing, doing the TV, the media thing. For his fun and interesting facts, Bernie Federko was the first player in league history to have at least 50 assists in 10 consecutive seasons. Federko was also the first player inducted into the NHL Hall of Fame primarily for his accomplishments with the St. Louis Blues. Thought that was a very cool little stat. And with Federko, the more I read about him, it's just he's kind of underrated, maybe a little bit underappreciated. He scored a bunch of points, but he also played in a very high-scoring era. And when you have Gretzky putting up 200 points a season, you kind of get lost in the shuffle. And with St. Louis, that's what kind of happened with him. But definitely a great player, just kind of underappreciated or under the radar for the era he played in and where he played. Federko's rookie card, 1978-79 OPC number 143. Josh, the PSA 10 has a pop count of 3.
Jeez.
Whopping pop count of 3 with a gem rate of 1%. The last PSA 10 sale I could find, thank you Card Ladder, was on March 11th, 2012 for $1,826.99 US via eBay. I'm assuming those 3 cards are locked in collections and they are never coming available for sale until maybe an estate sale happens or something, because I feel with that pop 3, those are in the hands of people that are not going to move them.
It makes you wonder what it would sell for today.
I was thinking about that. I bet it would go for big money.
You think so?
I think so. There's
like,
got to
be. What do you mean by big money?
I mean, I would guess more than that 1826. I would guess, I don't know, maybe 3. I was thinking 3 off the top of my head.
I just don't know how many Bernie Federko collectors there are out there.
Yeah, that or say, I got to believe there's St. Louis Blues guys or collectors that would want this. But the last sale of any graded copy was a PSA 7 that sold via eBay and verified in Terapeak for $19.38 on October 3rd of this year, 2023. So there we go. Bernie Federko. Love reading about him. Love learning more about these older players. Not Rob Ramage. I got to remember he's not Rob Ramage. If you see a picture of them, they kind of look the same. That's why I always got confused. All right.
All right, Troy. Good job. As always, we got to make a quick mention for Gongshow partner Slab Sharks. Very grateful for them for their continued support of our show. The current weekly Slab Sharks eBay auction is live. Goes through this upcoming Thursday night. So Saturday, I spent an hour or so, Troy, going through the auction. Picked out some of my favorites. Favorited. There's always good ones.
I know.
Honestly, like I say it all the time, it's like a broken record. I think I picked out like 5, but I could have had 15 very easily. So here's the ones that stood out to me. A 2021 Artifacts Teemu Selanne dual jersey patch auto emerald out of 15. The right side of the patch is cool. It's always weird when there's like a dual window and one is a jersey and the other is a patch. The other thing I think is kind of funny is there any player whose auto looks more just like scribbles than Teemu Selanne?
Oh, I'm sure there's others, but yeah, that does look like. Well, remember Stamkos was doing a Picasso or Jackson Pollock painting for a while on his, but yeah, this one's pretty scribbly. I get the T and the S, and then the rest
cool
is
card
just,
though.
Yeah, definitely cool card. You know how long it took me to. It was almost embarrassing long that I thought when there's 2 window things, I thought they were one continuous patch or like patch and the jersey next to the patch. I don't think that's the case.
That would kind of make sense. Next one that stood out to me, a little easier to digest, is a 2022-23 Upper Deck Yaroslav Young Guns High Gloss out of 10. Big card there for the number 1 pick in the 2022 NHL entry draft. Then there's a 2021 or 2020-21 The Cup Kirill Kaprizov rookie patch auto out of 999 BGS 9.510. So a gem mint.
Yep.
Really nice 3-color patch.
I think it's 4.
Ooh, really?
There's 2 greens, I think.
Oh, yeah. 4 colors. Wow.
Yeah, you don't see that very often with the Wild.
Then there's a 2019-20 UD buybacks Wayne Gretzky Legendary Signatures Gold Ink Auto. You'll see a lot where cards will go for a premium if they have that signature with a gold marker, gold pen, paint pen, whatever it's called. So just kind of a cool card. I don't think I'd seen this one before, so wanted to highlight that one a little bit. And then the last one is from one of our favorite sets, of course, the 2020 SB Signature Edition Legends Peter Forsberg All-Time Future Watch Auto out of 99. Forsberg has a really interesting auto, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's very loopy. It
looks like crop circles. Remember, like when they thought like aliens would go into like a cornfield or something like that. And
yeah, if you're not watching YouTube, there's 3 very distinctive loopy elliptical shapes. And here's my thing, Josh. And right by his shoulder here, there's a fan in the stands, basically a kid screaming.
What if that was you?
What if that was you? How awesome would that be to have this card and that's you screaming? Because I don't know if this picture is well known or anything or been used in cards before, but that would be pretty cool if I was that kid.
I was trying to remember when I saw this card because when I want to say like 12 or 13 years old, I had a Nordiques jersey, and it was either Forsberg or Sakic, and I can't remember what it was. Well, those are just 5 of the cool cards that I found. Of course, you can head to slabsharks.com for a link to the auction. Check them out for yourself. All the other good cards. And, we should mention, too, if you guys ever end up winning any of these cards from these auctions, would love to hear about it. So be sure to message us on social media. Also, Troy, if you're a Canadian hockey card collector, which I'm pretty sure is a law in Canada, like you have to pay your taxes and collect hockey cards. I'm pretty sure that I read that somewhere. Well, if that's the case, you might have a card or 2 or maybe 10 you're looking to sell and get some cash for. We'd recommend checking out Slab Sharks eBay Consignment Services, where they have 2 really important key benefits that we tend to stress all the time. The first is they do all the work for you in selling your cards, so you don't have to. You don't have to worry about taking good photos, completing listings accurately, answering buyer questions, hunting down payment when the auction is paid for. We'll get into that later on. Figuring out how to ship to the winner, even between Canada and the U.S. I hate shipping. I love Canada. I just do not like shipping to it.
Yeah.
I'm sure Canadians don't like shipping to the U.S. Or even the worst of all is handling any post-sale issues with the buyer. Yeah. The great news with Slab Sharks is they take care of all of it for you. Secondly, their weekly auctions are really becoming a thing. Kind of like, remember must-see TV back in the 90s? It's a must-see event, and you're going to get lots of hockey card collectors looking at your cards when you list them with Slab Sharks on their weekly eBay auctions. So what a huge benefit that is. And for complete consignment information to get started consigning your cards with them today, again, head to slabsharks.com. Well, Troy, it's the final number 10 out of 10, the bookend segment in our 2023-24 preview series. This is kind of a fun one. A lot of the times we do like really heavy research and data. Yeah. This is more of a discussion.
Yeah.
We're going to look at and examine and debate the key hobby storylines for the 2023-24 season that we think will end up really shaping what the hobby looks like and what the good things and bad things end up being, the highs and the lows and everything, I guess, in between. So I think, we have like 8 or 9, something like that. We'll get it right into it. So again, these are the 2023-24 hockey hobby stories that we can't wait to follow. The first one, Troy, that I put is the Connor Bedard-a-thon. Now, well, if you're watching on YouTube, what quickly is becoming like one of the greatest hockey pictures of all time is our guy Flower completely punking Bedard.
Yeah, he totally went after and tripped him. And here's the crazy thing. If you watch the video, it's amazing how Bedard thinks. If you watch it, he gets tripped. But right now on this photo, you see he's dropping his stick, but you can see him actually try to move his stick back and find the puck and shoot it as he's flying through the air.
Really?
It's crazy when you watch it, but you can see him make this little move. Now, then he drops his stick. He's like, oh my God, I'm about to go face first into the ice. And then Flower trips him, skates by him, gives him a little nudge like, hey, welcome to the big leagues, Rook, or whatever, and just skates on by.
If you're not watching on YouTube, you can go to Google and just search for Flurry and Bedard, and you'll find the image right away. It's definitely worth looking up. And I have zero animosity towards Connor Bedard. We're definitely on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
But I got to be honest, Troy, this bumps up Flower in my book a couple notches. It's pretty awesome for the 38-year-old guy who I think, did he start in the NHL before Bedard was born? I think that could be right, or
It
it's very,
might
very
be.
close.
It might be, or very close. I
Isn't
think
that crazy to think
Ovi for
about?
sure did, right? Weren't they? Wasn't Ovi like realize? No, Ovi was talking to some other guy, a rookie on the Capitals, and he realized that he was in the NHL. I think before the guy was born, and kind of made a joke or got sad. But yeah, it's going to be very close because Flower, I think, started pretty early.
Yeah, 2003 is his Young Guns. I know,
Yeah,
but well, so I used the term Connor Bedardathon
Mhm.
because I really think that this whole Bedard experience is going to be a marathon. And
yeah,
it's not going to just be through the 2023-24 season, because if you think about like when the cup will come out, we haven't even had 2021 the cup.
yeah.
So assuming that maybe that comes out probably not before the end of the year. So
No, I don't think
thinking
so.
in the spring, it could be 2.5 years
Yep.
before we see really the end of the 2023-24 releases. It's definitely not a sprint, right? And so again, that's why I really think that it's a marathon. Even though I kind of feel like that as these first releases come out, it's going to feel like a sprint. It's going to feel really frantic
hmm
when Artifacts comes out and we have those first redemptions. Then when we get the first live cards and packs, it's gonna, and definitely when Series 2 comes out. And basically, because to this point, any piece of cardboard with his name on it seems to go for
Yep.
huge money. We saw what Tim Hortons redemptions
Yep.
went for way over $1,000, and I know you're talking about it later, but people were saying that we're by no means Timmy's experts, as we're of course Americans, but that it's just like a top pick redemption, and
Yeah.
it may not even be guaranteed to get
Yep.
Bedard. So you're paying over $1,000 for a redemption just out of the chance that it happens to be Connor Bedard. That seems crazy to me. And it's not just going to be the effect of his cards, but it's going to be the Bedard, I guess, ripple effect all throughout the hobby. So here's some of like the big picture Bedard questions that I've been thinking about a little bit. And really, if you go through, I have like 4 kind of key questions, and like how could the hobby be different based on these potential 4 outcomes throughout the next year? Like, what does it mean if he's amazing? What does that do for the hobby? Does it bring so many more people into the hobby? Do we see basketball card collectors, football card collectors, hockey fans that haven't bought cards starting to buy Connor Bedard? We've already mentioned that we get messages from people that
hmm
necessarily aren't collectors that have kind of heard about the Bedard chase. And so to me, that's kind of the probably the funnest potential outcome if he plays really good. Would you agree?
Completely agree. Plus, it also has to do with how the NHL blows it or doesn't blow it with marketing him if he's amazing. Obviously, I think they've started it. They've started the process, but to get more people interested in the hobby, I think they're part of the equation too.
Well, given that he's on the first 2 nights of national
Mhm.
television in the
Yep.
US and back to back, that's probably a good sign. Now they just need to get him to date Taylor Swift, and we'll
Yeah, no
be
kidding.
we'll be off and running. So that's the easiest one to kind of figure out if
Yeah.
he plays great. And then it's one that has been talked about a lot because we tend to look at the world as like in polars, right? Is what if he's just average? What if he has Maddie Beniers called their campaign last year? What, like something like 24, 25 goals,
Yeah.
65 points? I think people would be pretty disappointed, but I don't know.
You'd be disappointed, but you have to be realistic too. The talent in front of you. He showed you enough to still keep some excitement, but he didn't blow it. He didn't go out and get 10 points or something like that. So there would still be, I think, hype around him. It'd be the story would then kind of flip to, well, he needs a year, he needs a couple years to get settled into the NHL game. Obviously, he played really well against a bunch of AHL players in some of those previous series, but now that he's in the NHL and against regular players, maybe he needs more time to adjust. So I think if he's average, it's definitely going to hurt. Like, I don't know what you do with the value. The values are definitely going to hurt. They'll get depressed, but I think there'll still be a little bit of hype and some pushback on his values just because he's still okay. Like,
Yeah.
And he's young.
Well, I had the thought when the Wild played them on, was that Friday night or was it, when did the whole Flurry Trip thing that we're looking at happen? Some point last week.
Yeah, I think it might
I think
have
it was
been Thursday. It
I
might
think
have
it
been
was
Thursday.
Thursday night. You're right. So he was pretty pedestrian
Mhm.
that game. He really didn't do much. I mean, we got to watch the whole game because we're in Minnesota and they were playing our team. Very, very quiet throughout.
Yeah.
Really, it was this play that we're looking at, the shootout where Flurry tripped him, was kind of probably the highlight, I guess, if you want to call it that, of the night for him. And so what I was thinking about during this whole game, and especially as it went on and he was not really asserting himself, is how many games do you think he's had where he's had as little success as he did last Thursday night against the Wild,
Probably not a lot.
where he didn't register a point?
Yeah.
He maybe had one or two like sort of decent chances. Yeah, I'm guessing his whole life that. And so you think, like, what kind of adjustment period will that be just for him, even to go? What if he goes 4 games without a goal?
Yeah.
Which would be very common for any
Yep.
NHL rookie, but probably has never happened to him ever.
Yeah, that'd be curious. Now I want to look that up, but I won't. But
Well, then moving on, what if he stinks? What if he has a Slavkovsky type
yeah.
rookie year? We had now Juraj.
Well, he got hurt too, right?
He played 40 games, but
Yeah.
what if through the first 40 games, Bedard and it's a worthwhile comparison just because Slavkovsky was the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
So let's say Bedard has 4 goals and 6 assists for 10 points, like Slavkovsky did in, like, what was he, 39 or 40 games. What happens then? I think there's a big pushback.
I was gonna say, I bet
And
there's gonna be a panic. There's a panic. There'll be a panic button. People will be pushing on, like, a lot of people would probably be pushing for how much money is being spent on this guy. I bet you. I'm with you. I think there'd be a huge pushback.
Mm-hmm. And then what I hope happens the least is what if he gets hurt, which I think just kind of continues the hype a little bit, and I don't see it hurting his market. It just
depending where it happens, right? If it happens later in the year, early, middle, because what if you have some evidence of his play? Because look at Caulfield playing well, gets hurt, values won't do a thing, right? Because he was playing pretty well. I don't know about Slavkovsky. His stuff's come down because of how he played his first 40 games, and then he got hurt.
I think personally it would feel exhausting if he got hurt because we've been waiting so long. The hype has been so high for so long. It's been, what, a solid year and a half.
Yeah.
Where this trade, I wonder if it would be really similar to how Jets fans felt when Aaron Rodgers got hurt after 4 plays.
Yeah.
Right. All this hype, all this anticipation. It's finally here. It's going to happen. I can't wait to see how this turns out. And it's over. And none of the questions we want answered get answered.
Well, with them too, it might be over for 2 years. Like, those Achilles things are not easy to come back from.
Here's a question for you. To what extent do you think the fate of the hobby in the next year is tied to Bedard? Do you think if Bedard is terrible, can the hobby still be strong within that year, or are they pretty connected in your mind?
That's a good question. I know I keep looking at, like, I know that I think the hobby can be okay, but there's gonna be a lot of people that get hurt. Because even with our talking to Karn, like, there's a lot of people that are putting a lot of money into Bedard, and if he gets hurt, they're obviously gonna feel it. And we always hear about the war chesting, people like saving up.
Yeah.
And if they put all their money into Bedard once Series 2 comes out and something happens, I think the hobby can still be okay because of the more collector-driven aspect of it, but it definitely will take a hit. I just don't know how big.
I think it might depend, too, if there's something to soften the blows. Let's say in a hypothetical scenario, Bedard stinks, but Adam Fantilli is better than expected. And people just shift their focus from A to B.
I'll say Logan Cooley.
Logan Cooley. Oh, yeah. You're right. Sorry.
Get both our Gopher guys in there.
Get our Gopher guys in there. There we go. Yeah, so going back, I think it's a marathon. that the marathon's going to continue with Bedard. Any other Bedard kind of closing thoughts as far as storylines go that come to mind for you?
No, I'm just ready for him to start. And I don't know what I was saying. I meant to say get our Gopher guy, not both our Gopher guys. Fantilli ain't a Gopher. Get one of our Gopher guys in there. But with Bedard, I think it'll be so awesome to watch this whole story develop. I hope he goes bonkers and scores. I hope he scores 5 goals on his opening night. But we'll see how that goes. Is it Pittsburgh, right? Pittsburgh
is night 2.
Oh,
I
night
can't
2.
Remember who they play. No, it is Pittsburgh. It's Pittsburgh then Boston. Yeah, because they're touting Sid versus the Kid is what they're calling.
Here we go.
Here we go. We're going to move on. The next storyline that we think will shape the 2023-24 season is the other Connor.
Yeah.
There is another Connor. So, Troy, will McDavid win the cup, or will there be another early disappointment for him and his Oiler teammates? Now, when you read or listen to McDavid's comments to the media over really the past month, it's very clear that he gets the urgency this season, much more so than any other year, and how necessary it is for his legacy to win eventually at least one Stanley Cup. But I think as a hobby, we would expect multiple, given his talent and production. And it seems like he was a rookie not too long ago, but I went back again just to check. This is his 9th season.
Yeah. He's still 26, 27.
Still 26. So that's where this is kind of like a hard scale to balance in a way, because man, you'd think after 9 years with his talent and the way he's dominated the league that he might have had a little bit more success than he's had to this point. But then the flip side of that is he still could have 10 to 12 with good years left with how these players take care of themselves and manage their body. It seems like he's been able to avoid, for the most part, right, serious injuries to this point. And of course, he's unquestionably the best player in the NHL. The flip side of that, though, is I can't think of a player that's considered a GOAT really in any sport that has never won a championship.
Yeah, I think he's got to win it. He's talked about it, like you said. In the past, sometimes he'd play I'm still pretty young kind of card when that stuff came up, but I think the urgency is settling in. And I'll say this, I've watched a couple Edmonton games. I know it's preseason. Holy cow, they're flying. Evander Kane's out there whipping goals in from the they looked really, really good. Just can their goaltending hold up?
That's the tricky part in this, because of course hockey is a team game, so it's hard to blame McDavid for the fact he hasn't won a cup. And even look back, he was great in the playoffs last year. That was pretty good the year before too. But it comes down to stuff like you just talked about with goaltending. So if he is able to win the cup this season, which the Oilers are good and they should be a contender, so it wouldn't be crazy for that to happen, then I think a lot of these questions go away. But if he doesn't win, Troy, and especially if they exit early in the playoffs, I think the questions are going to get louder and louder heading into season 10 next year for McDavid. I think we're going to start to see really 2 lines of thinking, right? Number 1 will be, should he stay in Edmonton? Does he that
was my thing. If he doesn't win it this year, I'm looking to get out.
Looking to get out. To have
he can't until 26, 27. That's when his contract comes up.
In hockey, though, I wonder at what point these guys will become like basketball players and try to force trades and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We'll see. And then the other one will be, what happens if this guy never wins a cup? Now, again, it's crazy because he should at least have 10 years left.
Yeah.
Which is a long time to win a cup, but he's just at that tricky spot. And I remember, too, the season before Colorado won, what was that, in 2020? Or was it, well, probably was the summer of 2021, actually. And they got bounced. Was it like the second round? And wasn't that like where McKinnon got all mad?
I think so, yeah.
Was mad McKinnon? I kind of feel like we're seeing mad McDavid, like just not like angry, but just fired up and on on a mission and grumpy and wanting to get it done. But at what point, though, Troy, if we get 2-3 years down the road, and now we're in season 11 or 12, does this start to affect his hobby values at all?
I'm sure it will. Maybe not in 2 or 3 seasons, but I bet if we go 5 or 6, it will. Because then you start worrying that, and now his age is creeping up, and so I think the next 2 or 3 years he's still good. But you get 5, 6, 7 years down the road with no cup, then you have some really tough conversations around. Will this guy ever win a cup? Could he be the absolute GOAT and never win a cup? That would be nuts.
The other storyline that I find interesting, it has to do with really who the hobby chases. And so for the past 18 months, every month we look up what players sell the most cards on a given month. And the list changes. The time we do a top 25 ranking, it changes typically every month. But for the 18 or so months that we've done it, the top 2 have always been the same. It's been Wayne Gretzky, number 1, who averages probably 3,200 cards sold a month on the secondary market. And then Connor McDavid is number 2 with probably around like 1,900 a month. Then you see a bigger drop off into like the maybe 1,200 to 1,000, and that alternates between Crosby and Ovechkin, and some months been Caulfield or Kaprizov have been over 1,000. But what's wild, and this sort of ties back in Bedard. Really, since the first of the year, Bedard's been in the top 10 and selling about 900 cards a month, which in of itself isn't that interesting. But when you consider the fact that he doesn't have any NHL cards, it's like, and you start to think, what happens when 6 months from today, maybe when Series 2 is out, do we have a new king of current hockey players as far as who, even temporarily, right, for maybe a 6 month or a year period, do Connor Bedard's sales actually eclipse in volume McDavid? Do you think that's likely or unlikely?
As long as he doesn't get hurt and he's playing, I don't even think it matters if he plays that. Well, he has to play a little. He can't have no points, I'll tell you that. But I think he does. I think he easily eclipses McDavid after the release of Series 2. You'll have artifacts. You got MVP right now, which that drops off once those come out. But even if there's another product or 2 in that, I think he beats or eclipses McDavid. There's gonna be so much movement on that guy's cards, especially when Series 2 comes out.
Now, the one sort of edge in this regard that McDavid has is, well, this is his 9th year in the league, so there's lots of McDavid cards.
Yep.
And there will only be a few, but I think the chase and the anticipation is built for so long that people are just going to go hog wild over cards. So I tend to agree with you. Okay, the next storyline that I think is worth following is really the 2023-24 hobby class at large. So, of course, Connor Bedard included, but I'm wondering if this could be one of the best hobby classes we've seen in a very long time.
Boy, I like to think so, but I wonder how many times that's been said in the past 20 years, and then you're like, oh, sorry, but listen, I'm super excited. There's more media today than ever, so we get to watch every single guy at some point in a highlight or even on ESPN Plus or so. You can find their games of any of these players you want to watch, usually, if you have access to it. But man, boy, if they look good. Bedard, Fantilli, Cooley. Carlson, I will admit I haven't watched that much. Devin Levi, we watched him the other night, didn't have a good outing, but
7 goals.
So Luke Hughes looked good.
It was great right away.
So it's super exciting. But again, like I said, who knows how many times this has been said in 20 years, but I'm excited.
Well, yeah, I'll go through the list again of just like the top 9 or 10 guys that we could see a Young Guns for, either in Series 1, Series 2, or extended this year. You have, of course, Bedard, Fantilli, Cooley, Carlson, Matthew Nyes, Luke Hughes, Devin Levi, Matthew Savoy, who was he like the number 3 pick last year? And nobody's even talked about. We haven't even talked about it.
Yeah, and he signed he was like an Upper Deck exclusive. Like he signed like a deal with them, right? And did a bunch of kind of offs. I don't know what the word is. Some other autograph stuff with them too.
And then you got dark horse candidates like Logan Stankoven or Matt Coronado. And like we always say, it's not that there's going to be 10 Hall of Fame players that come out of this class, but when you look at this list, it wouldn't shock me if there's 2 or 3 that end up being really, really good top tier players in the NHL.
Yeah.
There's going to be some busts, of course, too.
Yep.
But, and of course, it's all going to come down to how they play. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I think one of the big things, too, that I always look back on, even though I don't want to compare eras, it's like these guys coming in are just absolute athletes now. The amount of training, even though I'll still go back to the overtrain, but the amount of training, how good these guys are and how young these guys are and playing in the NHL already. I'm always curious, what is this like the youngest average age in the NHL history? I wonder what that would be. I should look that up sometime, but it seems like a lot of guys are coming in super young. But even Gretzky said the athletic ability of these guys is way better than he or anyone that he played with. It's crazy.
That's a great point. And I think that's part of why this class could be so special, because we have where I think last year it seems like it was a little bit more traditional where you had a 1 or 2 guys jump, but most of the young guys either stayed in Europe, went back to juniors, or played in the AHL.
Yeah.
We're going to have like the Matthew Savoys and the Matthew Nyes and Luke Hughes of those that were in college, either in college last year, that are now coming to the NHL. But this last draft in particular, where you have your top 3 guys in Carlson, Fantilli, and Bedard, that it appears are all going to start the season, at least in the NHL. And it's really making it past those first 9 games. Because what is the rules? Like it has to be like waiver rights or something like that.
You got to play less than 10, right? I think
start the season or something like that. Yeah. So when we get a couple weeks down the road into that 10th and 11th game threshold, we'll really see. But like I said, that's part of why maybe this class could end up being that special, because you're going to have that combination of where maybe out of the top 3 or 4 picks, you would expect all, if not most, to not play in the NHL this year out of this year's draft. So the next storyline that we've been talking about a lot and thinking about a lot and is really on everyone's mind: will this be the most expensive year ever for new hockey products, Troy?
Looking that way. There. Yes.
Now, we've come to expect a modest price increase on hockey wax every year. But this is not modest. This is the Bedard price increase already in full effect. We've been witnessing Series 2 pre-sales. I think they were at $240, which, Troy, is now officially double what Series 2 was last year. You looked using the Wayback Machine a couple weeks ago, the difference between 2014 Series 2, which was the last flagship release before 2015 Series 1 came out, that had the Connor McDavid Young Guns. And I think it was about a 40% increase.
Sounds
from
right.
Series 2 in 2014 to Series 1 in 2015. Well, we're just a few weeks into pre-sales and already 4 price increases or whatever into it, and we're already double. So we might look at this point, would you be shocked if it's triple?
I'm very curious what happens on the next Dave and Adams restock. That's, I think, because if they go up again, then your theory is dead on. Like, they're just testing, running it for a week, see if they sell out of their allocation for that week, then up in the price. So I think that would be very telling. But tripling might be, I don't know if it's going to be triple, but I could see it going up still even more. And I even looked up OPG paper. The pre-sales on OPG paper are even up 30 to 40% from last year.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you brought up another product, because we've kind of had our laser light focus so far in Series 2, just following the pre-sale pricing. What about SP Authentic in Future Watch Autos?
Yeah.
So if Series 2 is $250 US a box here in the States, is SP Authentic can be $450?
It might be.
Or Ultimate or Platinum, or are we gonna have $400, $500 OPG Platinum boxes?
Where are we on SP Authentic? We still don't have 22, 23, right?
No, we don't, but we have 2021.
Yeah, and 21, 22 came out. Okay, I was just trying to. I always forget where we're at.
So we have one more release of
Yeah.
SB Authentic, of Platinum, of all the really big ones before we get to the Bedard. When thinking about this, though, over the last couple of days, I kept recalling on our last show where we talked to Karn Rye from Slab Sharks.
Yep.
And when he was giving his perspective, he mentioned that there's basically one pool of money that exists in the hockey hobby that gets spread out to wherever the focus might be, whether it's vintage or modern or Connor McDavid, or in this case, Connor Bedard. So using sort of Karn's thought process, if there's really one total sum amount of money and wax to chase Bedard is double, triple what it traditionally is, where's that money going to come from? Or more importantly, what's it going to take away from?
Yeah.
Are we going to see big decreases in sales like a guy like McDavid? Or maybe not McDavid, but maybe kind of the fringe guys, the Matthew Tkachuk's of the world, the Jason Robertsons, Kaprizovs, these sort of people? Because now I do think, though, maybe to push back a tiny amount against Karn, but in general, I think he's kind of spot on, that I could see maybe Bedard bringing in 5% more money into the hobby or 10%. But it's still, though, if the chase is as real and as fervent as we think it's going to be for these 2023-24 releases, there's going to be huge vacuums that just there's no money to buy, whether, like I said, singles or wax. In that, so do you agree with that? And then where do you think the hits are going to come? Like, what's going to go down?
Well, I think once stuff comes out with Bedard, it's what are dealers, online retailers stuck with? Can they even move previous product at the same price as today? Probably not. So I'm guessing they're gonna have to drop that. I'm still curious if some of the other young guns in this year or in this series get released once Bedard's out. Do they take a hit or not move as or maybe fast as we think they should? So I would be definitely interested in kind of seeing where that goes and maybe picking up into that area.
But if you have to think about, so let's just say at current pricing, $240 US, that's what a hobby box comes out at. Well, I want to make a mention first. You don't think it'll be released at less than 240, right? Because wouldn't you be just livid?
No, it can't be. I mean,
if you lock something in 6 months in advance and you end up paying more than on release day.
No, I don't think so. Not David Adams. They better not. They're gonna have a revolt on their hands.
We open lots of boxes on our show to experience the cards and do our pack opening videos. It's very hard to break even on any hockey cards box. We've opened a lot of flagship product in the 124 episodes of our show, and it's very hard traditionally to break even on a flagship box as well. A $240 flagship box, if it doesn't have a Connor Bedard Young Guns,
no way you're making money.
It's impossible almost.
Yeah.
And remember, there's 6 Young Guns in a box, and there's 50 Young Guns in a series. So it's on average 8 1/3 boxes to pull a Connor Bedard Young Gun. So are you going to get murdered on, you buy 8 boxes, you get killed on 7? And does even the Bedard make up for that?
That's the question. Point? Yep, that's the rub right there.
Or how good does Adam Fantilli or Leo Carlson or Devin Levi or some of these other guys have to be to help soften that blow? And it's just the same issue is going to persist throughout all the 2023-24 releases as well. I don't know. To me, this is a super fascinating kind of question to ponder. I think, Troy, that we're going to also see like really good deals this spring on 2021 and 2022 product.
Do you think the last release of credentials will be on the table for $10 for a hobby box?
It could be.
Whereas we were talking to someone that said like their local card shop just had it on clearance. Oh, that was you. Yeah. On clearance on their table, and they still can't move it.
It's like 50% off. They had like 70 boxes. Now that's a specific case there. But and what if Caulfield's great and there's just nobody's buying 2021 or 2022 product because
Yeah.
everyone's throwing all their money into Bedard. So there may be some real big opportunities in the hobby to zig when everyone
Yep.
zags this year. If so much of the focus is on Bedard, where can you find some really good deals to where it may not be like a quick flip type scenario, but when the dust settles and everything levels out, maybe a couple years from now, when nobody was focusing on inserts from 5 years ago, that sort of thing, and because of that, you picked up some really cheap, you might end up doing very well in that scenario. Uh, I guess the last thing I'll say about this, and I don't like to be negative, but man, as much as we've waited for these 2023-24 releases and talked about them for a year plus now, it feels a little depressing that these boxes are going to be
Yep.
insanely expensive. It just
Yep.
kind of takes a little bit of the air out of the balloon, doesn't it?
Oh, definitely. Like I just sit there and think when these prices go up 30-40%, we'll just say per box on average. No one wants to pay that much.
Yeah.
I know your Bedard chances, but you don't get a Bedard. Have fun trying to make your money back.
Mhm. A little bit of a related topic is the next kind of key question or storyline that we think will shape the hobby this year: the new flagship configuration, and how's it going to be received by the hobby. We've talked about this a little bit, but I think it's worth stressing again, Troy, that flagship got a remodel, if you want
Yep.
to call it that, or retooling, for the first time in more than 20 years. So it's been very, very consistent product for a long time. Going back to Marc-Andre Fleury, who we talked about a
Yep.
little bit ago. It's pretty wild to think about. But honestly, it felt due, I think, in some regards. And for the majority of collectors, and especially breakers, I think it's going to be a real positive
Mm-hmm.
change. To me, the ones that probably are going to be most unhappy are going to be set collectors
Yep.
that actually like getting the base and like
Yep.
building their base sets, which is an awesome part of the hobby, and definitely see the appeal to that. And then I'm also sure that there's a fair amount of people that have collected French variation cards and young guns, and maybe from French speaking parts of Canada too, that will be
Mm-hmm.
pretty bummed out that those cards won't be there anymore as well. But I think that will be the more minority cases where, just in general, you're going to get less packs, of course, but there's going to be 3 hits per pack. And this is a big point to me. And I don't know if you feel this too, but when you open a flagship, you get a lot of, I guess, what I kind of call dud packs, where you open the pack and maybe it's I don't know, like a canvas of some guy you don't really have much interested in, some like 6-year vet that made the All Star team once. I don't want to mention any names because I want to tick people off. But I think that when you move to 12 packs or 3 hits per pack, that just by nature it increases the odds exponentially that you're going to have at least an interesting card in every pack, and maybe a dud pack or two if that's the terminology you want to use as well. But do you get that sense like when you open flagship where some packs are really exciting and other ones are like, no, when you're relying on that one hit?
Oh, for sure. And that's always gonna be the case. Even with the 3 hits, I get it. There's still 3 hits, but you're also gonna get some duds.
I'm sure. I'm just saying
And
there's gonna be less.
yeah, and I'm glad because, like I've said, we've been to the expo. We've seen people ripping. We've seen people just leave the base on the tables. At least there's going to be less space to leave on the table in a box.
Hmm. We're also gonna have a swath of new
Yeah.
young guns. That there's so many, and the best part of this is we're gonna start to know the answers to a lot of these questions in
Yep.
10 days, nine
Yep.
days essentially. But you got this new deluxe young guns out of 250. How do you? What are the values of those? Like, is it going to be? Will the will it be proportional in value to like an exclusive? So if an exclusive is out of 100, will it be? Will a 250 be? Well, you could do that. It doesn't ever seem to be proportional though in
No.
anything in this hobby.
No.
Or like a clear cut, right? Will a deluxe be worth more or less than a clear cut? These are random things I think about.
Mhm.
Any of the Outburst parallels, how will they be received? Will they look better in hand than they do in the? I
Yeah,
tend to
that
think they will,
I hope so.
but it's kind of like the medallions cards from
Yes.
2021 Flare Ultra that just don't photograph great,
Yep.
but look really, really good in hand. So I'm really curious to hopefully we pull one or two. That would be nice. And then you've got that. I think the biggest wild card in all of this, Troy, is that Outburst Silver that's not numbered. How do you value that thing?
Mm-hmm.
So the first Matthew Nyes that goes up for auction, will that? I'll be really fascinated to see where those go initially, and then where they end up leveling out at. I guess. Yeah, there's gonna be a whole new pecking order, right?
Well, I'm super excited to see just even, I mean, the Bedard 101. Like we said, we hope it gets pulled. We don't want to get pulled right away just to build some excitement. But I'm interested to see what the other 101s do for these guys, even like these lesser known rookies. I would love to see what a 101 does for some guy that you've never heard of on the checklist.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a taste of that, but not really. Kind of like the pop count one last
Yeah.
year. But this is going to be to a whole
Yep.
new level. On paper, though, I'm a really big fan of the new configuration. You can rip Upper Deck for ways that are fair and unfair, but I think strategically the timing is right for this, and the moves are pretty smart. There's some wild cards in there. There's some risks, of course,
Mm-hmm.
that come in with doing this, but I can't wait to see how it shakes out. But I've been really excited about this since really it was announced. What are your thoughts about the new
No,
configuration?
I'm a fan of it. I think, you said this. Breakers, most people are probably pretty happy about the change. It needed to happen. It's been 20 years. You have what we hope is a generational type player coming in. I think it made sense that this is the time you do it. I think the 101 Young Guns is long overdue. I think that should have been something a long time ago, but I'm glad that's coming in. And these other out, like the Outburst and the deluxe out of 250, it's just another interesting chase. I'm glad they're doing it, so I can't wait to see it in person and rip a box.
It is good to have more chases with Bedard. Because
Yeah.
think of how expensive it would be under the current.
Yeah.
Next storyline that we're going to follow is, will Cole Caulfield live up to the off-season hype? So Troy, other than when I think of like storylines from this summer that I'll remember a year or two from now, I'll remember all the new products that came out as like dizzying at times. Kind of is right now. We're in another one of those stretches. I'll think about the products like Credentials and Stature that had missing rookie autos or sticker autos, and some premium products like Ultimate and Premier. But I think beyond that, I'll also remember it's sort of been the summer of Caulfield
Yeah.
to a certain, and it defies all conventional wisdom.
I was gonna say, for no reason whatsoever, it was the summer of Caulfield.
I remember when it was announced back in January that he was hurt and would miss the rest of the season. And for how well he had played to that point, where, what was it? He had 26 goals, not a lot of assists, 10 assists in
Yeah.
36 games, but or 40, he had 36 points in 46 games, which is like an 82 game average of 46 goals. And for a guy who's 21 years old, that's very intriguing, of course. But the conventional wisdom was, well, this is kind of going to be great from a buying perspective because it's January. He's not going
Mm-hmm.
to play again till October. That's like 10 months of no Caulfield. He'll be, with everything else that goes on in the world of sports and in the NHL, he'll be forgotten right away. And we'll be buying up some Caulfields this summer. Well, not only, and just even looking at like using his Young Guns as a barometer, not only did it not dip to the degree we thought it would, I checked today, Troy, over the past 6 months, it's up. It's up 11% since the
Yep.
middle of April. It's like, how? There's no reasonable explanation for that. And there's a lot of reasons you can point. You can point to the kind of the relative weakness that we've talked about a lot of the
Yep.
2022-23 hobby class, all the 2021 releases that have come out this summer that have sort of, where he's been the key guy that
Yep.
have kept him in the hype train, I guess, if you want to put it that way. But it's kind of gotten to the point where he feels like his values are a 40 to 50 goal scorer. And I just wonder if that's asking a lot for a 22-year-old who just missed 10 months of hockey and is coming off of a major industry. What are the chances that he lives up to the hype that has been built really over the past 6 months, and his values are able to either sustain or even go up from here? It
Yeah, I
just
think
feels like like this could be a case where I hate to say it because I want it to work out, where I wouldn't be shocked if it doesn't.
Well, I'm gonna say I think it's extremely risky. I put it at like 25 to 30% that he actually plays well enough to justify the high pricing. Now, I could be completely wrong, which wouldn't be a surprise or a shock to anyone. But I think there's a lot working against him coming back off of that layoff. Shoulders are tough, man. They seem to creep up all the time. You get one, get a couple, and they just keep coming back and back and back. And it's kind of one of those nagging things. But so I think I'm with you when I say it. I don't think there's a great chance it happens. I hope it does, but I would be pretty nervous about the Caulfield market.
Hope it works out because I'm a fan. Then I think we talked about one of the reasons why his values were so high is the relative weakness of the 2022-23 hobby class. Been a little ho-hum to this point. So my key question as we look at this next year is, which one of these guys is going to take a big step forward? Maybe assert themselves as a budding NHL star and bring a little bit of hobby hype or increase their hobby hype a little bit. Now that Beniers has a year under his belt, can he get to 35 goals? Can he take another step forward? What's going to happen with Slavkovsky? We mentioned he had 4 goals in his the number one pick, had 4 goals, and he got hurt, but it was still 39 games. Not good by any measure. You got to have more production out of that from your number one pick. Now, I think he was 18 too, so let's factor in the still very young. But even looking at our guy, Matt Boldy, can he be more consistent, take the next step up, or consider maybe some of the dark horse guys like Wyatt Johnston from Dallas, who somewhat quietly had scored just as many goals as Beniers did, I believe, last year? Or is it Kaprizov 2.0? Is it Kuzmenko? Does he keep the ball rolling or the puck moving in the right direction there? So when you look at the 2022-23 class, who are you excited about? Or are you excited about anyone?
I am not excited.
Am too.
Boldy, maybe, and I don't know if that's like a homer bias since we're Minnesota. I've seen enough of Boldy to show shines of stuff he can do, but again, then you get that streak of 10 games where he doesn't do anything and looks like he'd rather be on a beach than anywhere near the hockey rink. So he's probably the one guy I'm most excited to watch, but I truly admit it's probably because he's a wild guy. The rest of them, I'm just not that excited about right now.
It's tough. It doesn't seem like there's a slam dunk obvious choice as to who's going to be. And I just wonder if it'll end up being like what was like the 2017 or 2018, probably 2018 hobby class where you have Elias Pettersson, who's probably at the top, who's obviously good, but definitely not a hobby star. Will this be one of those years where, and man, going back to again the 2023-24 pricing, if that's real high and Caulfield plays well, and these guys are all just kind of average, because he's some very cheap 2022 boxes. Next key question, Troy, is will we have an Austin Matthews hobby rebound? This could be my favorite hockey picture of all time. Doesn't he kind of look like
like that?
Like Benicio del Toro in a Quentin Tarantino movie or something like that. If you're watching on YouTube, it's my favorite picture of our guy, AM34, Austin Matthews. Well, you're a good hockey player when 40 goals is considered a disappointment. We've surmised a bunch over the offseason that Matthews was probably hurt a little bit last year, and that affected his performance. And I don't know if it was just the 40 goals, but man, I just don't feel like in the past 7-8 months, there's been a lot of hobby buzz around Matthews. And when you look at the data, it really supports that, Troy. So over the past year, his 2016 Young Guns PSA 10, which has a pop of 3,128, is down 50%.
Wow.
And I feel like we're seeing similar sort of lack of chase and lack of hype in almost all of his cards across the board. He's an amazing player. And so my question is, what has to happen this year to reignite some of that high? Does he need to score 50 plus goals? Do they need to make it to the conference finals and he plays well? Are there just too many other good players now where he's getting lost in the shuffle a little bit? But he still seems talent-wise a cut above a lot of these guys, other guys to me. I'm curious to your thoughts on this.
I definitely think he's got to get up to 50 goals. And I think also I want to say the conference finals, but geez, just get out of the second round. You got out of the first round, now get out of the second round and do something. But he seems in a really rough spot right now. And again, I don't know if the injury is healed or what's going on with him. It seems like they haven't said anything. But I do think to get a little more buzz going, he's got to probably start off pretty hard and start scoring at a good pace that would get him to that 50, even maybe 60 goal pace for the year.
I have a slight theory that I want to run by you. That's kind of half thought out. So
Okay.
If it's bad, you just have to tell me. I'm trying to think. So I kind of put Matthews in the pool of players like Ovechkin or Brett Hull, these pure goal scorers, right? That's what he's most. I know he's a pretty good complete player, but he's known really as a goal scorer. And so when you go from, 65 goals to 40, and that's what you're known for, that's going to hurt a little bit of your hobby status. And whether it's fair or unfair or right or wrong to whatever degree, at least that's the best theory I can come up with. What do you think about that?
I like that theory. And actually, last year was the first year of his career that he had more assists than goals during the season.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yep.
Okay, we'll move on. Well, speaking of goal scorers, the next one, which will be a big story probably this year and a huge story, hopefully, in the 2024-25 season.
Yeah.
Will Ovi take a big step towards hockey immortality? I kind of did him dirty, and I picked like the oldest looking silver fox.
Yep, the silver fox
Ovi picture I could find for YouTube here. Of course, there's no one that expects him to score 72 goals, to tie Gretzky, or 73 even to beat him in the upcoming season. But I think the key question is, will he bite off a big enough chunk where it's going to feel like it'll be a given next year? And we all think he'll play till he gets it. So if he has to limp to 20 goal seasons for the next 4 years, which I doubt will happen, but he'd probably do that. And it just seems like it's two most likely scenarios are it's either going to be next year or the year after. And I feel if he gets like 35 plus goals, that it increases the odds, of course, dramatically that it'll happen next year. Do you agree with that so far?
Yeah, I would say if he gets halfway there this year, I think then it becomes a game of just feeding him all the time, making sure he's out all the time on the power play next year. I think if he can get halfway there, he's got it then in 2 years.
To me, the interesting hobby question around Ovi and storyline that I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays out is how much of the goals record is already built into his pricing. Now, it's going to be really hard thing to measure, of course. Yeah. But I think anecdotally, we'll just see how much room for growth basically there is in his values as he takes, like, let's say he scores 43 goals, which would be very impressive, of course, at his age or something close to that. Is there much room? I mean, how much do his values go up? Do we start to see more records, or is it just what's expected and that those increases have kind of already been baked in to this point?
I've always assumed that the increases are baked in. That's just how I've kind of went with it. Now, if he does get, let's say he gets to 40 goals this year, maybe 5%, I would think, 5 to 10. And then maybe if he gets it next year, it will, as he gets closer within 5, it probably jumps a little bit. But I've always thought, this is just me personally, that all that stuff's been baked in, knowing how great a player he is and what needs to happen for it to happen. It seems very plausible he can do it. So I've just always assumed a lot of it's been baked in.
I also think about what's the smartest way at this point to get into OV collecting, where the obvious cards that you would want to collect for any player would be his big rookie cards, but that are 5-6 figure cards at this point and very unrealistic for 99.9% of all people out there. But you also consider the fact he's played 18 years and has hundreds and hundreds of different cards. So I think there's going to be, as the excitement grows and he hits milestones, and if he has like a really good couple weeks where people overspend on forgettable cards. And so, one of the things that I hope we can do and over the next couple of years as he approaches this as a show is try to do some of that work and try to figure out where, like we talked about, like maybe in like PWCC auctions where is like Parker's paper rookie, like a BGS 10.
Yeah.
Right. Where the card itself is very, very common and not very sought after. But if it's a true rookie card in a very exclusive, pristine grade, that might be an opportunity without spending $50,000 to get an interesting OV rookie card that could build in value over time versus a lot of like kind of random insert type stuff that doesn't have staying power. Does that make sense to you?
Makes complete sense to me.
And I think this is sort of the last storyline. Of course, we could come up with a billion more, but our show has to end at some point today. This is a big one to me.
Yeah.
And it's what's going to happen with autos for key players moving forward.
Yep.
I think it's fair to say it's been a little bit of a tumultuous couple months of product releases as it pertains to key rookie autos. We've referenced this a little bit already in this conversation, but we had missing autos and like stature and credentials that caused the, credentials is a product driven on rookie autos. And when you are missing all the key rookie autos, and I was so excited for this. That's probably my biggest hobby disappointment in the past year, because I really was like that product. Well, we still have Parker's champions, so I'm gonna hang my hat on that. We hope. Right, so it's not a surprise that they're all on clearance now. Then we had higher or premium products like Ultimate or Premier, where we've seen stickers, or it really started with the Cup, right, with Kaprizov and Sorokin, but we've had stickers now for Caulfield, Zegras, Sider, these key guys, where it just feels like when you get products like that are a lot of money, $1,000 a box or $500 a box or $400 a box, that as a consumer, we don't expect to see sticker autos. And that Upper Deck is very cognizant of this. It's not just them being lazy or anything. There's something going on. I doubt they're going to make it public. It's probably not to their advantage to air any dirty laundry that might be happening over this. But one of the biggest questions I have in the hobby right now as it relates to new products is, will this trend continue? Is this just a isolated incidence with the 2021 rookie class, whether it be maybe their contracts expired, or again, it could be a million things. I don't, Fanatics is charging in, who knows? But will the trend continue? Is that something you're thinking about as well?
Definitely thinking about it. Definitely think something's going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. We can hear so many rumors, but the more I think about it, the more I think about Fanatics entering the space, I truly think something's there. I just don't know exactly what it is, but we'll see how it plays out.
And I think it's worth noting too, we can probably breathe a sigh of relief as it pertains to Bardon, because he's their spokesman for the 2023 class. So I'm going a little bit out of a limb here, but I'm assuming that means that they probably pay him a lot in that getting hard signed autos won't be a problem where they want. I'm sure there will be sticker autos and products like Synergy or Trilogy that typically have stickers, but I doubt we'll see Bedard Cup autos that are stickers as well. But I don't know. Will Fanatics make a run at guys like Logan Cooley or Adam Fantilli or Goba DeVet? What about like Ovechkin or Crosby? Can you imagine if Ovechkin sets a goals record and is a Fanatics
Yeah,
signed athlete?
exclusive.
Oh my gosh. No, these guys like McDavid that are spokesmen and Laffy. Don't have to. You can rest easy tonight, Troy. You're gonna have your Laffy hair signed autos. Yeah, I don't know. Or does Upper Deck need to pull back on autos? Do they? We talked like a little bit about, well, what do you do about this in the future? And it's, do you make sure that you get your key set? They seem to like build MVP first, and then the crescendo of the rookie class is the cup. But should you be producing the cup, even if it doesn't matter when you release it, but should you be producing it first so that you make sure that if the first 1,000 autos the rookie signs or the first 2,000 are cup and Future Watch auto, that at least you have those? Because I think people will go, the one that it's going to be really tough if we start to see a lot of stickers is probably the Future Watch auto.
Yep. Oh, for sure. For sure.
That's an auto product.
Yep.
And where the box prices are going, I think that would be tough.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you have a solution, or is it
better start paying? You gotta get, if you want to get your key rookies, you're gonna probably have to spend more money. Money will always talk. That's what Fanatics has. That's what they're probably gonna offer. Plus, they can probably offer a little more on the distribution side. But I think that's what you gotta do. You gotta pay more. We know hockey players are woefully underpaid for their autos. We know that much from just anecdotal evidence compared to other sports.
Well, I'm sure Upper Deck's response to that is going to be, well,
then the
hockey
box prices
don't want to pay $1,000 for a box like football collectors do.
All right, then let's see what the market does. I mean, let it go the way it's going and lose some guys, and then we'll see what the market does. I mean, that's our other option.
So hopefully you guys all found that a worthwhile conversation. Those are, I guess, the key storylines that we're thinking about. If there's something that you think we've woefully forgot, or just other things that are at the top of your mind, go ahead and message us. We'd love to hear from you and get to know. All right, Troy. Happy news.
Happy news. Big one.
Oh, big one. So we got to talk about the $3 million Connor McDavid rookie sale that really wasn't.
Sale that wasn't.
And it really leads into a conversation on comps and why the whole system is broken.
Yep.
So actually, last Thursday morning, so this quote unquote sale, but it's really a ended listing, happened about 7 a.m. our time on Thursday morning. And I was actually doing some research, and I looked up McDavid, and I saw it probably 20 minutes after it ended and got pretty excited, as you can imagine. It's like, whoa, this is a really, really big card. The first thing I thought of, though, I'll have to admit, is that we just had the Ultimate Collection 101 Shield sell for what was like 180,000, maybe 160,000. And I'm like, whoever bought that card, if this is a real sale, is very, very happy today, because they paid. Now, I'm sure this exquisite collection would be considered to a degree or two a better card than that Ultimate Collection is. But there's an ocean amount of difference between 160,000 and 3.3 million. So it's Probstein auction, so that's kind of interesting too. It's not like somebody with like 2 feedback or something like that. And first thing I do, like we always do, is I go to Terapeak, and it's not there. But that's not out of the ordinary, right? Because so what happens is, when a listing ends, it shows up in eBay's sales history and under a sold listing. And we'll get into this in great detail in a minute as to why that's not good. But then when it does not show up in eBay's other sales reporting system called Terapeak, which has different data, which we'll get into in great detail in a bit, which is not good, until the listing has been paid for. So I search it in Terapeak. It's not there, but it's been 20 minutes. You get typically, what, a day or 3 days or something like that. Like, I can't remember.
I think 3 is the normal.
Yeah. So and of course, throughout that day, the day on Thursday, I was checking randomly because it's exciting. It would be crazy if this had sold on eBay of all places, and still wasn't in Terapeak. But then I knew this was going to happen. I started to see social media posts talking
Yep.
about the record McDavid sale, and I'm just like, oh no, because it doesn't mean that it wasn't going to get paid for, but the longer it goes, typically not a great sign. And so people were a little premature in kind of promoting this as a huge sale in the hockey card hobby. Not that, Troy, that you could blame them for that,
Nope.
because and that a key point that we'll start right out of the gate on this is, if a company has like when you go to eBay and you look up at listings and completed listings and sold, like that's
Yep.
what it says on the app, sold, and you see a card like this on a report that sold price $3.3 million, you to have to understand all the nuance that exists is insanity.
Yep.
It's we'll kind of talk about this a lot, and here's where you should offer a lot of value, because professionally you're a business intelligence and you're a data and a reporting guy. That's what you do for a living. And if you're creating a report and you work and do business like huge amounts of data reporting for big companies like Fortune 50 companies, and you create a report that says here's a product that's sold, that the people that view that report would expect that actually was a product that sold, right? I
Yep.
mean, it feels
Exactly.
like kindergarten logic here, but unfortunately, with eBay's sales history, that is not the case.
Yep.
So a day goes by, a couple days goes by, and then eventually the card gets relisted,
Yep.
meaning that it never was sold. Now, I do want to take a little sidebar here, and just because as I was kind of waiting to see if this would get paid for, the more I started thinking through it, the less I believed it would ever get to the point where it's paid for, because it's such a weird card to buy on eBay.
Yeah.
To pay, like, if you think of on a $3.3 million sale, just the credit card processing fees alone
Yep.
would be 80 to 100 grand,
Yep.
depending on what the credit card processing rate is. But 2.5% is a good sort of average that a lot of people use. And I would contend, Troy, that the people that get to the point where they have $3 million to spend on a hockey card don't get that wealthy by paying $100,000 credit card
Yep.
processing fees, where I don't know what a wire transfer costs for $3 million, but I'm sure it's less than 80 grand.
Yeah.
So it's a weird card to buy on eBay. And then why would you ever want to sell a card like this and pay whatever I'm sure it's not 13%. There's probably no way, but even 5% of is a ton of money. And so I just felt like this is such a strange, it's just not the sweet spot of an eBay transaction. And so I was not at all surprised that it ended up getting relisted and it was never paid for. Do you agree with all that?
I agree with all that, and I don't want to jump anywhere ahead, but to me, it's I don't know who owns this card. I don't really understand why you would go to Probstein to sell it. I would much rather go to go to one of the auction houses and negotiate that buyer's fee. Like I don't know. It seems weird that, like you said, it's weird this is on eBay. That's all. But agree with all your logic. Obviously, it wasn't paid. You're dead on once you saw it. Once it went probably 8 hours without being paid, you're probably, oh no, here we go. And the reason we know all this stuff, or Josh knows all this stuff, is hey, when we started, this was a big issue for us, and we got burned on it a couple
We
times.
got burned constantly.
That's why we're just Josh is really a hawk on this stuff, on what you have to do to verify.
We're going to go into great detail, and I have an example that will blow your mind on this whole thing. Okay, really quick aside here too. Let's go back to our McDavid conversation and our storylines. Would you pay $3 million for a rookie card of a guy who's never won a Stanley Cup.
Nope.
Yeah,
One, I
a little
don't
bit
have $3 million to spend, but
true.
a lot of money, especially with the one going for 100 or the other shield that went for a 180. It
Yeah,
just seems like
160,
the premium on this one's way too
180.
much.
So I want to go through this very thoughtfully because this is something that's super important for everybody to know. When a listing ends on eBay, it does not mean it's paid for. So
Yeah.
when you are searching for comps in eBay sales history, you have to understand that the comp that maybe somebody at a card show, a dealer is referencing to you, "Oh, this last one sold for $500." That may have never been paid for, and therefore really shouldn't be considered a comp. Today, if you go to, well, let me say first, then it's kind of spiders out just from eBay sales history because
Yep.
all the other reporting platforms that people use and like get their data from eBay sales history. So Card Ladder, Market Movers, 130 point. So many people use that. If you go right now, or at least at the time we're recording, to Card Ladder or 130 point, this is, and you search for Connor McDavid, Exquisite 101. This is still a sale that is reported on their platforms, even though it wasn't paid for and it's been relisted. So it's really, there's no doubt that the sale didn't happen. And where this becomes such a big issue, Troy, is that in the case of a $3 million hockey card, it's very obvious. Not too many people are going to get duped by the fact that nobody's going to say, well, this card sold for $3 million. It's like, with a little bit of research and talking to people, you'll know that. But the same thing can happen with $100 cards, $250 cards, and $500 cards. And where this becomes a major, major problem is a lot of shady people know this.
Yep.
So you can list your card, go in with another account, quote unquote, buy it or win the auction, never pay for it, for which it shows up in eBay sales history and Card Ladder, 130 point, Market Movers, whatever platform you use as a completed sale, and therefore is forever a comp in and can be used as a reference to make more money for that card.
I just
Which
want
is
to say
just,
I put up, and if you're watching YouTube, I put up the 130 point screenshot so you can see it's out there.
yeah, and this is 2 days now
Yep.
after the card was relisted. So I have an example that I want to go through. And I think this really illustrates to the point, and I fear that somebody got burned in this
Yep.
example. So let's say you collect Leon Draisaitl. You always wanted one of his Young Guns exclusives. Who wouldn't want that if you're a Draisaitl fan? And you found a collector that has one and he's willing to move it, but you guys now need to figure out the price. So you're going to do what everyone does and you're going to go look up comps. So whether, again, you use eBay sales history or 130 point or Card Ladder, we like Card Ladder because they use so many sources. So I looked up earlier today the top or Leon Draisaitl, all the Young Guns exclusive sales, and looked at the top sales. Well, Troy, the first 4 top sales ever are all listings that were not paid for. They're listings that happened within the last year, but I think all of them are, say, at least 6 months old. Well, to find the first Draisaitl sale that, well, and I should say the top one sold, quote unquote, sold, but didn't really sell for $7,500,
Yep.
right? And I had to go to the 5th sale, which actually happened recently and makes this kind of a sad but pertinent example of a BGS 9.5 that sold for $5,005 US on September 14th. It was paid for. It's in Terapeak. It's a legit sale, so we know what happened. But it makes you consider, though, that given that the top 4 sales ahead of it were all quote unquote were quote unquote sales were all not sales, and they were all for more. So for 5,500, 5,500, 6,700, and 7,550. That in this auction that just ended last month, where the buyer ended up paying $5,005, were they comfortable in going up to that amount because they looked at these other four quote unquote sales or quote unquote comps and said, "Whoa, geez, this is sold for as much as 7,500 in the last year. So yeah, I'm high on Leon. I'll pay 5,000. That's a fair price."
Can I
Well,
bring up one thing? Was it you said it was the fifth sale that was sold for 5,005
or
on
fifth or
September
sixth.
14th?
Yeah,
Okay.
right there.
Yeah, it's a PSA 10.
Oh, okay. PSA
Yeah.
10. Sorry, I thought it was a beta sign before. So PSA 10. My bad. So they paid it $5,000, but there's been four sales again higher. Here's where this gets sad. If you go actually find prior to this $5,000 sale that just happened, the highest selling, like real selling Draisaitl exclusives, I think that one was a BGS 9.5
Yeah.
that sold on May 11th for $3,800. So this one sale from May 11th at 3,800 was paid for. So it was a real sale. But again, in around that time and since then, there's been all the report, or a lot of the reporting companies say there's been a $5,500 sale, another
Yeah.
$5,500 sale, a $6,700 sale, and a $7,500 sale. I just have to wonder, Troy, the person that just spent $5,000, had they known that really the top sale to this point was 3,800, would they have been as confident to go over 5,000 as the maybe the perception that exists because those not real sales? I don't want to call them fake. Because I don't know what the circumstance was, but whether you call them fake sales or not are on the report. I think that now we don't know. Maybe they just love the card. They don't care what it costs, and they just wanted to pay for it. But I think this is a really concrete example that illustrates how much of a problem these listings can be, because according to 130 point and Card Ladder and eBay sales history, the top four Leon Draisaitl Young Guns exclusive sales ever never happened.
Yep.
But that's now like permanent comp record.
Yep.
Is this a good example in your mind?
Definitely a good example. It's one of many that you found just looking at stuff. And I don't know. It's weird because do you pull out Teradata when you're at the table because it's a lot more not user friendly. It's so easy to look up, hit that little completed sales filter to look up completed sales on eBay, but now it's shady. We've seen it. There's a lot of shady stuff going on, and you got to be very diligent when you're looking at. You just can't 100% believe what you see all the time on eBay.
Well, and most people know that, listen to our show, that we do record sales. And this is
Yep.
getting back to the point where you said, well, we've got burned because we got burned by this a lot.
Yeah.
So I'll do research trying to find record sales, and there's never a day, there hasn't been a day in the last 300 where I haven't found a card that in Card Ladder, because I think Card Ladder for me is easiest to search in.
Yep.
So what our process is, I find cards that are look like records and that are interesting, and then I verify in Terapeak. There has not been a single day where I haven't found at least one that wasn't paid for. And I would tell you that probably once a week, I'll have the experience where I think my record is like 11 in a row. It gets really frustrating when you're trying to
Yeah.
create a social media post, and but it's not super uncommon to find five what I think are record card sales in a row, and then okay, here's the McDavid. Was it paid for? No. Okay, here's the Austin Matthews record. Was it paid for? No. And it's just it is like it's a way bigger issue than I think people realize. And again, I go back to, these are used for comps to value cards. And so when you're at that card show and you're at a dealer and they're referencing these sales, that, and this is like where we'll get into a little bit now, some of the issues between the reporting systems. So the rule of thumb, of course, is well, any eBay sale you need to verify in Terapeak. You can't access Terapeak through the eBay app.
Yep.
So it really only works best on your desktop. Well, what if I'm at a card show? I don't have my laptop where I'm opening up the selling tool in eBay's desktop, and so you're going to be really susceptible to fake sales. Then there's the whole issue that we've talked about this for a long time because we're both, you're a data guy professionally, and I've dealt with a lot of data. Terapeak is not some like amazing third party. It's an eBay sales report.
It's
And so eBay
ridiculous.
has eBay sales history and they have Terapeak, and they're both eBay reports that have different data, which is, if you know anything about data, is, they always talk about like what one source of truth, right? There is no one source of truth in eBay. And it's such a massive kind of idiotic faux pas that
Yeah.
it leads me to believe, Troy, and this is where I really want to get your, because this is your world to a T. It has to be intentional to some degree. Like they just can't feel like it's in their vested interest to fix it because it just seems like such an obvious error.
Yeah, I don't think they care to fix it, or maybe they've done a cost budget and said, or cost analysis, and just I don't know what the behind the scenes stuff is with eBay. I don't know what their API is. If you can, I don't know if Teradata is accessible through the API, or maybe you have to sell or pay a lot of money. I'm not sure, but right now my whole thought is eBay just does not care, and they don't think it hurts them to have this going on.
Well, if
And
they fix it, their money will go down because people
yeah,
bid on eBay
yes,
auctions based on what they
yep,
think are comps of sales that were paid for that
yep,
ultimately were not. So they can't fix this and make more. Well, I guess they could using like big picture sort of aggregate logic, but in the
yeah,
short term, it would cost them more
yep.
money.
So
Um,
yeah, it's on eBay. I don't know how you get them to fix it. Just enough people push back on them, but these providers, I get the buying. They're kind of in. They use what the data says, and data's wrong.
so I think like the takeaways to me on this are, if you're in the heat of the moment or you're trying to do a deal on the fly and you're trying to quickly reference comps, you have to do so knowing the risk that a lot of these comps could very well be based on ended listings that were never
Yep,
paid. I'm really trying hard not to use the word sale because a sale implies something was paid for.
yep.
And in a lot of these cases, it wasn't. You're never punished for doing more research when it comes to completing a deal in the hobby. And so any eBay comp you want to use, you should always reference it in Terapeak. And that we're not going to get into it today, but there's Terapeak is not the end all be all reporting system either. Like we know
Nope.
that yes, it does show paid for sales, but if you pay for the sale and then that product is returned or refunded, it still lists there as a paid for sale. So again, no, in perfect world, that would be deleted from that report, but that isn't the case. And there's other ways people manipulate Terapeak as well. So anytime you're looking at eBay comp, verify in Terapeak. Terapeak is only accessible through desktop. You have to have a seller's account. And when you go into the account, it's in the research tab or link kind of near the top of the page. One important note I want to make to people about Terapeak is that there's a drop down that by default is set to whatever country you're in that eBay site. So we're in the US, so our default is ebay.com. You have to find all the sales and to really ensure that your comp you're trying to verify was paid for, you need to switch that to all sites. And in hockey, this is particularly a big issue because if you don't, anything hockey card that's sold on ebay.ca won't be included in that report. And there's every other country like Japan and Italy and Germany
Yep.
and all those too. So when you switch that to all sites, it returns data from every one of the eBay domains. Just an important point to note there.
And the
There's so many other issues that, I mean, this is a big conversation, but I hope that we've kind of at least created a little bit of awareness about this and the need to verify any eBay comp that you see in sales history in Terapeak in order to trust that that was an actual sale.
I will say if you are on Android and you go to ebay.com and you go to the drop down menu on your browser, the Chrome browser, the mobile Chrome browser, there's a show me desktop site. If you click that, you'll get the desktop version and you can get into Terapeak that way. It's cumbersome, it's annoying, it's super small print. It's not mobile formatted, obviously, because you're on the desktop site. You can do it. It's a pain. But just know, I don't know if iPhone's like that or not. I don't use Apple, but on Android, you can get there. It's just cumbersome.
I hate saying this, but it's true. And I think that in order for people to understand the issue, it needs to be said. There's no incentive right now not to create quote unquote fake content.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so easy. It's simple. It doesn't, there's no negative consequence to it
Nope.
really. And so it's not just a surprise given that that's the circumstance that this is such a big issue. And like when I just do my little stupid searches looking for record sales, well, I can run into 6, 7 in a row
Yep.
that were never paid for. We do want to make some news and notes and some player movement. So we're getting, of course, really started for 3 or 4 or 5 days ago, whatever it was, to see final rosters being shaken out. And of course, the hockey hobby is driven by prospects and a lot of young guys that don't maybe direct like Connor McDavid or Adam Fantilli don't go directly to the NHL. And so a number of guys, there's some news on and movement news on. First one we want to talk about is Spencer Knight, who missed a good part of the season. Was it really like in the January, February timeframe when he left
I
the
think so.
team?
Yeah, it was a good chunk of the year.
He entered the, what do they call it, the player assistance program.
Yep.
It turns out he came out and said he was dealing with OCD issues, which was a little surprising because your kind of mind in those scenarios goes to maybe substance abuse
Yeah, you always think
or
substance.
mental illness or something like that. So hopefully he's dealt with that. Well, he was assigned to the HL the other day, and apparently it's to get him more consistent playing time as opposed to strictly backing up Officer Bob. And
Yeah.
I guess I read through the tea leaves there and take that to mean that probably they don't think Knight is quite ready. And maybe they also, given how the end of last year went through in the playoff run Bobrovsky had, that they might intend to buck the trend and give him the majority of the starts.
Yeah.
Anyways, so
That's the plan.
yeah, is that what you would kind of
Yeah,
surmise
that's
too?
how I kind of surmise what happened. And it's interesting. I don't know why I've never really noticed this, but they keep saying they loaned him to that team.
Yeah.
Anyway, I always think of like soccer is loaning where they loan the players, but
Do they say loan when they don't own the AHL team?
maybe it's probably some semantic thing that I just don't pay attention to.
Another player news, Josh Norris is not ready to go for the Senators. Really sad. It sounds like he
Yep.
tweaked something in a captain's skate, which is it's like, how do you hurt your shoulder in a captain's skate? It's
Mm.
pretty fragile at that point. And that happened in mid-September. Hasn't been right since. I just feel bad for these guys. They're using the word out indefinitely, which
Not
feels
good.
a little not good to me. But hopefully he comes back. And we went through and our comeback stories, and man, his numbers were awesome.
Yeah.
His plays, he just can't seem to stay on the ice. Well, the Jamie Drysdale saga is over as well as Trevor Zegras. So Drysdale signed a 3-year deal with the Ducks, bringing him in the fold on really the doorstep again in the season. He was the number 6 overall pick in the 2020 NHL entry draft. Played only 8 games last season due to the vaunted shoulder injury and subsequent surgery. Just 21 years old, very, very young. So they got both of their young guys signed, Drysdale and Zegras. And then I have a kind of a whole list of some notable young prospects that were sent down to the minors within the last few days. And, you know, these are guys whose maybe young guns were in the $10 to $20 range at some point. Hendrix Lapierre was for Washington, was sent back to the minors. Alex Turcotte, Brant Clark. So a lot of people were maybe a little, he's seen as a Calder candidate.
Yep.
Doesn't mean they won't come back. They get recalled anytime soon, but he was sent down. Cole Lind from Seattle. I read a bunch of articles this summer, maybe thinking he might be a guy that steps up. Dustin Wolf, Troy.
Yep.
Goalie from Calgary. So what happened there?
So I like Dustin Wolf. I actually thought he was going to be on the roster, but in looking at what kind of the stories that come out, it definitely seems like he's NHL ready. He had one good game, one tough game in preseason so far. The Flames, they've even come out. The general manager said they want him at the NHL level. Right now, it looks like they're doing the whole AHL, and some of that is due to salary cap issues.
Yeah.
Because if they keep 3 goalies on the roster, they would have to designate some other guys as, I don't know, like injured, or they have to do some really funky stuff with the salary cap. And right now they don't want to do that. So they're, I think, just going to see how Dan Vladar does as the backup. And I think Wolf eventually comes back up and he's on the NHL squad. But I also think the NHL is starting to really look at how teams are circumventing the salary cap. I know there's some rumblings that they're going to change some things.
Stuffing guys down in the AHL to save money.
Stuffing guys on long-term injured reserve. Oh, playoffs starting? Yeah, they're back. Just doing some of that funky stuff where you save that salary during the season and then you have them ready to go for the players. I think they're looking into some of that stuff.
Our guy for the Wild, another goalie, Jesper Wallstedt, was reassigned to the Iowa Wild. Not a surprise. You had Gustafsson, who was statistically one of the top goalies in the NHL last year. He still had Flower, just not room for him. Atu Radi for Vancouver. And then Vasily Podkolzin, who, remember, in his rookie season was awesome. Then it was awful last year. Probably not a good sign that he was sent back down the AHL again this year. Maybe makes you think it might be a little bit of a flash in the pan. All right. A lot going on in new product releases. Of course, we have Allure coming out this week. We have Series 1 coming out the week after that. But we also had another release that
snuck up
near and dear to our hearts. And you wanted to go through a little bit. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Troy.
Yeah, we'll go over it a little bit. We are intrigued, I'll say, by Tim Hortons. So the 23-24 Tim Hortons hockey cards looks like they released on October 2nd to our neighbors to the north, Canada. We are not fortunate enough to get them, or unfortunate we don't get them. I don't even know if there's any more Tim Hortons in the U.S. anymore. I know we had one or two.
We had one at the Mall of America, and that was a big deal, but that closed like right away.
Yep. So we always have to wait for the expo when we go up there and then make way too many stops at the Tim Hortons to try to load up on cards. So the quick rundown, 3 cards per pack. You can buy them at Tim Hortons. I think you buy packs of cards that are like $1 if you purchase a hot beverage. Oh, I even wrote here, excluding espresso shots. So Josh, no espresso shots if you want the dollar cards, I guess. Or they're $1.99 without a beverage. You can also get the binder, which you see a picture of if you're watching YouTube. And that stores all 234 cards in this year's set. Now, it was funny. I was reading the Cardboard Connection overview. And first comment was someone complaining there. And I think they were in Newfoundland, saying how they're more expensive there. And I looked at the list where it said the pricing, and there's a little star, and it says prices vary by region. So take that for what you will. Probably $1. Yeah, probably $1 more if you live on probably those far east or west coast provinces, maybe. I don't know. But let's look at the set itself. It looks like the Tim Hortons are highlighting past and present NHL stars in the base set. The base checklist features 120 players. I'm showing if you're watching a YouTube, there's a base card right there. There's returning inserts consist of hockey triumphs, in-motion phenoms, and superstar showcase. And the new inserts are net keepers. Good. I like to have goalies. Point leaders and symmetry standouts.
What's the symmetry standout mean?
Oh, I didn't even look. They just had the name. They didn't show a picture of it or anything.
I wonder if that's somebody that has an equal amount of goals and assists.
Oh, that'd be interesting. There also are short printed ice gems, which I'm showing a picture of on YouTube. This is another debut, 1 in 80 packs. These cards feature an all-star lineup of 6 NHL prodigies. Hello, sell sheet. I love the wording in the sell sheet.
Yeah.
Chase hits. Here we go, Josh. This is the big stuff. Include multiple autographs and relics. There's Nathan McKinnon and Sidney Crosby. They are appearing in the Superstar signature line, which I'm showing a picture of. There's also Josh Morrissey, as he is acting as the annual Timbits autograph subject. I didn't even know that was a thing, but it is.
Okay,
These.
so I'm looking at the odds here.
Oh yeah, that's what I was gonna get to. It's have fun.
If I was ever lucky enough to pull a card out of a pack that had 1 in 159,200 pack
Yep.
odds, and it was Josh Morrissey, I might kill myself.
Yeah, it's they're pretty big. That's the same odds on the McKinnon and Crosby. If I remember right, yeah, so I can't remember. It's out 87, so you can probably figure out the print runs are to the moon on this stuff. They gotta
Oh,
be.
yeah.
But so that's interesting. In addition, there's the Collect to Win promo is back, which awards various prizes. Josh, think about this, including a Sidney Crosby meet and greet, VIP trip, or tickets for a 2024 Stanley Cup Finals game with airfare and accommodations. Now, if you got to meet and greet Sidney, do you think he's thrilled to meet you? Or is he just, contractual?
What would you choose? The
Oh, I would
Crosby
go
meet and greet VIP
no,
trip or Stanley Cup Finals game?
I'd go to the Finals game.
Me too.
Yeah, for sure. Nothing is Crosby, but I just don't think he'd be that interested in it. So I don't
It'd be
know.
like an awkward 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I have 7 of those a day. Why would I want another one?
Yeah, no kidding. And then also on November 2nd and 9th, as part of the whole Tim Hortons release, they are having hockey trade nights at various Tim Hortons. If you go to the Tim Hortons site, I'm going to show here, there's a map you could find that has all the different locations that are having the hockey trade night. So November 2nd and 9th. So that's
They're
pretty
not going to be sold out by the time we get there for the expo, are they?
They might be, I mean, because it runs
Oh.
like Timmy's are supposed to run, I think, from October 2nd to that last weekend of the expo, like November 13th, maybe 14th, or while supplies last. They might be.
Well, leave us some Canadians.
We'll just have maybe have to.
It makes us happy to go get coffee and get dollar packs of hockey cards.
Yep, exactly. So there we go. That's Tim Hortons.
Great overview. Okay, going to make a quick mention for PWCC. They, as well, are a Gongshow partner sponsor. Thank them very much for their support of our show. Troy, the October PWCC premiere auction is live. You going to put your house up for sale so you can buy some cards in it?
I want to, but no.
Well, you'd have 5 hockey cards this month in the premiere auction to choose from. There's a 1979 OPC Wayne Gretzky PSA 8. Can never go wrong with that. Beautiful card. How about this one? Interesting one. 1997 Upper Deck Gretzky game used jersey auto. Believe this is the first one of those types of cards. PSA 6 with the auto authentic. Be fascinating to see where that one goes. Here's a nice one. 2020 The Cup Connor McDavid game used NHL Shield Patch Auto 101 PSA authentic. Then a couple very nice 2015 The Cup McDavid rookies. So the first one is a 2015 The Cup limited logos McDavid RPA out of 50, which I believe are game used, right? So it's like one of the only game used RPAs that you'll get. BGS 9.510. Hopefully I'm not wrong there. And then there's a 2015 Exquisite Collection McDavid RPA out of 99 BGS 910. A little bit nicer patch than the limited logos, but still very nice cards. So of those 5, you get a gift. You get to pick one of them. Which one are you taking?
All right, I'm gonna look through them one more time just to make sure.
I'm gonna see if we pick the same one.
Am I getting it free or do I have to pay for it?
Yeah, it's just free. Just card you like the best.
Well, I'm gonna take the Gretzky. I'm taking the Gretzky rookie.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I think I'm going with the limited logos. Even though the patch isn't super, super great, but God, I love those limited logos.
Yeah, they are sweet. I get it.
Also, the current PWCC weekly auction is live as well. More than 150 cards to choose from this week. On Thursday's show, Troy and I, like we always do, we're going to pick out our favorite vintage and modern cards and highlight them, learn more about them and the players. It's always a good time. You can view or bid on any of the cards, either from the October premiere auction or the PWCC weekly auction at pwccmarketplace.com. Well, it's mailbag time. I think this might officially be the biggest mailbag by one.
Yeah, it's
a monster.
It's massive. We have to fly through these because this might take an hour.
Yeah, we got to go. Okay, we'll get right into it. So from Discord, our good friend Neil, Irish Flyers collector, commish for Gongshow Fantasy Hockey League. Neil says, you guys are NHL commissioner for a day. Which city do you award an NHL expansion franchise? Quebec, Houston, Kansas City, Atlanta, Salt Lake City, Oklahoma City, Hartford, Indianapolis, or another city? Well, I'm going to answer this, Troy, by saying I don't have any marketing data that would support sort of like TV market size
Yeah.
or studies, how many players that go to games or population densities, all that sort of thing. I'm just going to speak from the heart. I want the Nordiques and the Whalers to come back because I love their brands
Yep.
and their uniforms, and I love Whalers colors, and that's just would make me happy.
Oh, I agree. I initially would say Quebec and Hartford, just like you. I want them back. I love those jerseys. I love the teams, the colors. But I think Quebec is already in hockey heaven in Canada. And Hartford, I just think you have too many teams in the Northeast to to
Maybe.
grow the game. So I was thinking a little more. I tried to use some logic and said, I think the argument you probably could add any of those cities in the US if you want to grow the game. However, I probably lean a little towards Salt Lake City or Salt Lake City, Indianapolis, because they don't have hockey teams in the states, in those two states. I said even maybe Kansas City. I know there's the Blues, but Kansas City is a crazy sports town.
I was just gonna say that
It's
with the Chiefs
crazy.
and the Royals are never good, but they get crazy
They
support.
support them, man. And the soccer
Yeah.
team there is insane, the support they get. So I think Kansas City would be a very interesting dark horse. I think there's probably an argument for Atlanta, but you've had your shot already. The Thrashers
Nice.
didn't twice, and the Atlanta was it the Atlanta Flames? No, was it Flames? Rockies? I can't remember. I can't remember what happened. They moved to Colorado, maybe. I can't remember how it worked out. But Atlanta, you had your shot twice, so you don't get another shot.
Our next question, Discord, Bewley Shop. Have you guys ever found any correlation between the price of a rookie's card, say Young Guns, when they're still on the same team as on the card versus if they've been traded to play for a different team? So I think of like Tage Thompson is probably
Yeah,
one of
just
the easier
jumps out.
examples to
Yep.
think of because he, of course, started with the Blues. So his Young Guns and Cup cards and all that are with the Blues. But of course, he is most notable now with the Sabres, who he's sort of broken out with. I really don't think I just think it comes down to how well they're playing and the hobby hype.
Yeah.
I, to some degree, as a collector, you would want if you're a diehard Sabres fan, it probably bums you out a little bit that he's in a Blues uniform in his rookie card. But I haven't seen any like hard data around that, and I would say that if there is an effect, it's probably pretty minimal. Yeah, would you agree with that?
I
Or no?
think so, and obviously from a collector standpoint, like I think about for the Wild, right? Gustafson is Senators Young Guns, and if you collect Young Guns for all the Wild players, and it kind of stinks when they're in a different jersey than the team that they're with and that you collect. But I don't know if there's really any
Yeah.
evidence that it hurts the value. Maybe a percent or something. I don't know, but that's what I as a collector I'd rather have them in the jersey, but I don't think it's such a bad thing that they're not.
Next question from Discord, Braun. So, what a story here. So I don't know exactly what this is because I've never done one of these. He said he purchased into my first group break with Clutson Chara in Canada. It was a Bedard Chancer, and he essentially won a case of 2023-24 artifacts when it comes out.
Cool.
So congratulations, that's amazing. Very, very lucky. And he's wondering, would you hold the case or a few boxes for a few years or rip it all and hope to get a big Bedard card? My concern is all the Bedard cards will be redemptions. It'll have expire. Is that how they say expiration date? Expiry in Canada? I kind of like that. It's cool. Expiry dates. So holding too long can make them worthless. It's a great question. And I think you're right. I don't think that this is a long-term sealed wax hold. What I would probably do is I also don't know if I would rip it. I think that it if the prices are going crazy out of the gate and
Yeah.
LCSs are raising box prices and people are spending crazy amounts of money on redemptions, that sort of thing, I would try to probably offload the case sealed, whether it be to a breaker or an LCS. I don't think you'll have a problem. And then maybe you'll get enough money to save it for Bedard Young Guns or some other card you can just buy as a single when it comes out, or some other card that you really want. for your PC. That's probably the way I would go. Do you have a different thought, or would you?
Nope, I'd immediately sell it or flip it, and you're gonna get money for, or people are gonna pay you for it, and it's great that you want it. And I would probably, if you have no interest in just ripping to rip, I'd move it, flip it.
Yeah. Next question is a great one from Discord, Kingsfan0511. Do you carry an extra insurance policy for your collection in case of fire, theft, damage, etc.? And if so, who do you use? I checked with my homeowner's policy and they don't do anything like that. Is there an insurance group you're aware of that writes policies for this sort of thing? Well, one thing I want to mention right out of the gate before, because you kind of have an answer, Troy, is that there could be a big difference depending on what country you live in,
Yeah.
how insurance works. And so we're kind of giving the U.S. perspective of
Well,
that.
yeah, I think there are definitely insurance groups that do write policies for this stuff. I've just listened to enough podcasts on other things around sports that I believe there is. Now, personally, when I was at the Burbank Card Show in the corporate area, there was actually a booth set up by a company. I can't remember the name of it or anything. And they were focused around estate planning. And I believe they were also talking to people about insurance and how do you cover your collection, which I wish now I knew what the name of the company was, but I didn't even think of it. I looked at it and said, oh, that's nice. And that was about it. So there's definitely companies out there. You might have to do some digging to find who they are, or maybe look at the vendor list if it's still out there from Burbank and see if you can find that. It was in the corporate area. And they had a pretty lawyery name. I think it was something like estate planning, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I personally have an umbrella policy an additional policy that umbrella covers my collection. Again, not to, like, if my collection burns down, I'm not out that much. It would suck. It'd be more sentimental value for me than actual monetary value. But I do have mine covered.
Would you remember that Lloyd's of London company that would where Tina Turner would have your legs insured or something like that?
Yeah.
So if there's companies that insure crazy things like that, there has to be people that cover sports cards collection. I would do the same thing as I would, Kings fan, look into your umbrella policy or try to find an umbrella policy that covers it. But I'm not an insurance agent and this is not.
It's not advice.
Next question, Instagram, Daniel Poulin 180. What do you guys think of the new 2023-24 Upper Deck Tim Hortons set? And where is the most value?
Well,
answer this.
From what I've seen, I think they look very nice. Like, I haven't seen them in hand. Obviously, we're in the U.S. We haven't been to Canada yet. Now, we did just go over the little overview of it, and I will say we're both suckers for it because we can't get them here. So we'll rip them, obviously, and if we can get them by the time we get up there. I don't know exactly what cards hold value, those inserts. I mean, obviously, if you can get one of those signatures, but the odds on them are so astronomically high that that's not realistic. Plus, it seems like these things are printed to the moon. So I think
it's the top pick redemption that we're already seeing big sales on, right?
Yeah, over 1,000, right? Might be Bedard is probably where you're going to get the best chance to get some value. Plus, but this set too, I think a lot of people do the binders. Like, binders sell out quick, right? I think we had someone in Discord looking for a binder because they were sold out already or something.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's the best I can answer. Sorry. I wish we got them here, but we don't.
Soon. We'll be up in Canada. We'll be snatching them up. Next question, Instagram, The Real McCards. You guys have talked extensively about the normal patterns and dip in values Young Guns usually experience after the initial hype around release. Do you think the Bedard Young Guns will follow the same pattern? Or do you think if he comes out of the gate scorching, values will hold or even go up? I'll just say,
I have no clue.
I think everything Bedard does not follow conventional wisdom, and it's expect the unexpected. I wouldn't be surprised either way, but I think that when you're in these scenarios, which is very true, I don't think there's a way to predict with Bedard, but the best thing you can do is find a reference point, and the reference point is what happens most often, and it is that Young Guns curve, that value curve we talk about. And so without any evidence of anything different, I would default towards that, but I'm just not going to be shocked if he is an outlier situation.
Yeah, agree.
Instagram, Mbron8. If at some point Fanatics gets the NHL hockey card licensing, what do you think the positives and negatives will be? Well, I think the positives will be Fanatics would have more money to invest in just the overall hockey hobby
Yep.
because they have lots and lots of money, of course, they're a massive company. They also seem to have the ability to activate athletes and integrate them almost on a ridiculous level into card collecting. If Michael Rubin can get Tom Brady to show up at a local card shop for trade night,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he can get Cole Caulfield to autograph his cards. The negatives would be, Upper Deck has so much heritage, and what if Fanatics gets a license but doesn't? But Upper Deck retains their IP, and we have no
Yeah.
Young Guns, we have no Cup, we have no OPG Platinum, no OPG, no Exquisite Collection. That would suck. I mean, that
Yeah.
would be a loss. And then the other negative I would say is I don't. I have nothing against Fanatics, and they own PWCC, which is a big sponsor of our show. But it scares me the idea of one company having a total monopoly on cards in the entire sports card
Yeah.
world. I think having competition is generally a good thing. And in hockey, Upper Deck is that one kind of last holdout. And I just hope they're able to sustain.
Yeah, I lean towards if Fanatics does get in the NHL license card or somehow they get the license, I hope it's a multi-company deal the NHL does so that there's competition between them, Upper Deck, and whoever.
Yeah.
I would love to get back into that scenario where you have companies competing. I hope that's where it goes. Maybe eventually, if they need to make a decision this way, as so much money's being thrown at the NHL that they do this. But that's where I lean.
Okay, next question. Instagram, Sports Cards Sweden. Since Bedard is widely viewed as the best thing that's happened since oxygen, that's awesome. Will all money flow into the Bedard hunt? And if so, will we soon see amazing discounts on less sought after products like 2021 and 2022 boxes? We talked about this. I think that's definitely a plausible scenario that if these 2023-24 releases that feature Bedard rookies are crazy expensive, going back to Karn Ray's point from our last show, the pool of money in the hockey hobby isn't going to triple or double along with the box prices. So something's going to have to give, and we could see some really, really good clearance sales on 2021 and 2022 releases. Next question, Instagram, Independence Hockey Guy. Will Erik Karlsson help Sidney Crosby get a 100-point season again? Well, I probably would have said no, Troy, but then I saw a fired up Crosby drop the gloves this weekend in a preseason game.
Yeah.
And now I'm convinced that Crosby's got a little fire in his belly again.
Yeah.
And he might even get there on his own. I don't know. What did Crosby have, like 92, 93 points last year? I don't know if Erik Karlsson's worth 8 points to Sidney Crosby. But I will tell you this. I think there's a much better chance he helps Crosby get to 100 points than he helps Tristan Jarry get a Vezina.
Exactly. That is exactly where I was going to go. Karlsson can't hurt from the offensive side, but he can sure hurt from the defensive side. So I like him better to help Sid get the 100 points. I even think about Jarry and the Vezina. That's a great analogy.
Okay, next question. Instagram. We want the wax. Do you think sports cards needs government regulation? All right,
fantastic question. I don't know. I mean, I wish it didn't, but man, the way the hobby seems to be going on all the bad news that pops up and the whole gambling aspect of breaking, it just seems like it's very plausible that somehow the government's going to get involved more than they are now. I'm not 100% sure. I don't know when, but I do think maybe there's something cooking. I do think it would actually be smart for these card companies to maybe get together and maybe create some kind of regulatory body or some consortium like we've seen what the video game companies did a long time ago with the rating system. Obviously, they don't need to make a rating system, but there might be something they can do to hold off there. But then I look at how long has sports memorabilia been around and had fakes since probably the beginning. And I don't see any regulatory body around sports memorabilia. Maybe cards.
Fine art.
Yeah, or right? Fine art. In the U.S., it's kind of a mess. It can fall under what? The FBI. It can fall under, I think, maybe the trade, FTC sometimes, and how it's such a mess who deals with what. So maybe it will just never work out where the government can get a regulatory body. I've always said this. I do expect the EU to be the first one to jump in on some kind of regulatory action if anything does happen, and then the US would probably follow. That's how I always thought about it.
Great answer, Troy.
Sweet.
Then he had, I think, another question.
Oh,
With 2122 SPX now an EPAC, am I curious how it works in products that coincide with physical releases? Does Upper Deck plan such EPAC releases from the start, or do they decide when demand doesn't meet supply or sales are weak or something like that to break open overstocked physical boxes and scan all the cards for EPAC? It's planned out from the start.
yeah.
So, and then they allocate. Well, his second question kind of gets into that. It says about EPAC. Upper Deck has to know what cards are in the system solely for EPACs. What would stop and plays with that access from passing such information to anyone they choose? For example, what product hit is confirmed to be an EPAC and what wink wink hunt them in EPACs instead of physical cases, boxes, circulation. Well, first of all the cards are stored at ComC, and I think that they use third party provide to help kind of sort that out, but they typically make it kind of, the odds don't change. So if it's a flagship release, you're still going to get 6 young guns in a box. You're still going to have the same chance to get a Connor Bedard. They will do, like, I think Billy on our show at some point kind of confirmed that in very specific cases, like the Connor Bedard 101, they're going to make sure that that's in a hobby. But that's kind of as they sort of differentiate between EPAC and physical, that they make some of those choices there. But it's not a reactionary type strategy. They view EPAC as a selling platform, and I understand it too from, like, and maybe I wouldn't have understood this as much a year ago, but we have people that we talk to, like, in our Discord, that are from remote towns or down south in the US or in Canada where there isn't an LCS until 90 minutes away. Is that we're spoiled. We can drive 20 minutes to 4 LCSs here that all have hockey cards, where that's just not or you collect hockey cards in Australia.
Yeah.
EPAC gives you a way to collect internationally. And so I really value the platform from that. And I think that's how they look at it. They just don't look at it as like a clearancing tool to dump cards. Next question, Discord Braun. You both have indicated several times the bad luck you have ripping wax and not pulling anything too great. Well, we actually prove it.
I think he's calling us whiners.
Yeah. I'm sure over the years this has not always been the case. Can you both share the biggest cards you've ever pulled ripping wax? And do you still have these cards, or did you sell them? So you can go first, Troy.
Yeah, non-hockey biggest card ever was a 2021 Topps Chrome Platinum Anniversary Mickey Mantle insert. It was crazy pack odds. I still have it, as it is the closest I will probably ever get to having a 52 Topps Mantle rookie. It's the 52 Mantle, just in chrome and shiny and a refractor. Looks really nice. I think when it was originally, when I pulled it, or when the set came out and it was pulled, they went for like 1,500. Now, who knows, 400 probably. And for the hockey, I have really never hit really that big a card in hockey with all the wax I do rip. I did hit that in 2022-23 trilogy. I hit a Roman Josi Generations patch purple 101, which I did end up selling. I want to say, I can't remember what it went for. It was like maybe $200. I mean, I have not hit a huge card in hockey.
Both of our biggest hits are from the same year and the same product.
That's, of course.
The biggest card I ever pulled was a few months ago. The pack opening is on our Instagram, so you can look at it. It's a Connor McDavid game used 3-color patch auto out of 15 from, same as the Roman Josi 2022-23 trilogy. Still have the card. I didn't even know what to think, because I'm like, this can't be real.
Yeah.
Discord Braun, if Upper Deck reached out to you guys for future ideas on what they could do different or better, what would each of you recommend to them? So first thing I want to say here is, the more, I don't know if this is just like a personal relationship thing, but the more you get to know them, I get a little bit uncomfortable with these questions, because not only are they good people, but I feel like that we've gotten a little bit of insight, Troy, into just the complexity around, we get the luxury of, as collectors, of simplifying every issue.
Yep.
Well, just get them to hard sign the card, right? Because of course I hate sticker autos too. And so I don't want to like naturally simplify very complex issues and pretend like they're dumb and we could solve every problem super easy, because I just know that that's not the case. I know in general they're good people. They understand the issues. They're trying their best. Are they making the right choice every time? Probably not, but they do just as many really great things as maybe mistakes that they more good things than mistakes that they make. So that little disclaimer. If I was the CEO, I think I would have a whole, I don't know what you call it, like a whole initiative just around the word consistency. Like
Yeah.
that's the thing that really, and what I mean by that is consistency in the release schedule. It's just dizzying right now. And I don't think that that's great. Consistency in the production quality of the cards. Why in one flagship series do we have 70% gem rates? Why in another do we have 25% gem rates? Consistency in how autos are treated, right? Where is it due? And I just think there's a lot of ways where that maybe they'd have to slow down a little bit in some regards, but being more consistent might help them. So that's what came to mind for me. Do you have any ideas?
No, I like those. I think I keep leaning towards maybe taking a step back and culling some of the products. I think we have a lot from the upper deck side, and I think it would help to take some out and maybe move the if those sets have bigger cards in them, move that branding to a different release or something.
Sure.
I can't sit there and run down every set and tell you what I would do, but I just what was it 26, 27, somewhere in there,
Something like
25.
that.
So, I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot.
Next question, Instagram, top shelf cookie sniper 88. Hypothetically, if Connor Bedard is a bust, would he be the biggest first overall pick bust in history based on hype, or is there someone else? I would say at this point, and because of the era too, you have
Yeah.
to factor that in. We're in the social media era, all the hype, where the hobby is post pandemic. He would have to be the biggest bust in history, because when you think of like what other guys, like who am I thinking, like
Nail Yakupov.
Nail Yakupov, or who is like Alexander, whose name starts with a D. Why can't
Oh,
I?
Daigle.
Daigle, yeah, like it was just a totally different time
Yeah.
at that point. Would you agree
Or
with that?
Dag. Is it Dag? It's Dag.
Dag. I think it's Dag. So do you think he would be the biggest bust?
Oh, for sure. Just think about it. The hobby's probably the biggest it's ever been. There's so much out there about him, the social media stuff for sure. If he ends up being terrible, yes, it would probably be the biggest bust ever.
Next question, Facebook, Stephen Albert. Great question. I love this one. Young Guns to pick up on my small $100 birthday budget. So here's what I would do. Well, I guess, Stephen, the true answer is just find any player you like, you want to follow, you and enjoy owning their card. Collect what you love, right? But you asked a specific question, so I'm going to give you a specific answer too. If it's me, what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to look for like Tim Stutzel, Tage Thompson, probably because their young guns are, not high print runs. I think Stutzel's gem rate might be a little bit lower. Probably find really nice, be very picky, find nice raw ones that I could grade, and maybe try to get one of each for $100, something like that.
Yeah, I think that's the play. I don't even know the particular players, but just look for the raw route and see if you can find a good, nice, clean copy and go
Buy
to
ones with
grade.
great photos that clearly
Yep.
show the edges, clearly show the corners. You can kind of like get a sense of the centering, that sort of thing.
Yep.
Next question, Instagram, Nick's Cardboard Treasure. Why do you think Young Guns are so dominant in the rookie card game when there are rarer and objectively aesthetically nicer options nearly every year? How long till the wider hobby starts looking outside the Young Guns? Example, look at Pop Records of Black Diamond PSA 10s versus Young Guns in early 2000s. We've talked about this a lot. It's a great
Yep.
question. It's, you know, I think the real answer is the Young Guns strike a great balance between being accessible and desirable, having a recognizable brand, a lot of appeal. They're easily understandable, and are a great entry point or gateway drug into hockey card collecting. You brought up Black Diamond. Another one that I've been looking at a lot lately is like Star Rubies. They're
Yeah.
out of 50. They have like weirdly low values. And it's because in the intellectual side of you says, how can a Young Guns with a population count of 10,000 be worth double what this Star Rubies, which it looks amazing. It's a very interesting looking card and is out of 50. And it just is what it is. It's just certain cards have more recognition or hype, and the Young Guns happens to be that. And like I say all the time about I think that to me the best way to look at it is Young Guns might not be your thing, but appreciate the role that it serves in the hobby. And that I think it does more
Yep.
good for hockey card
Yep.
collecting than bad.
Yeah. Or that's what the market's determined right now. And yes, it can always change.
Can always change. Next question, Instagram, Swee Collector TCG. What's the 3 best hobby products
Jeez, I
released in
didn't
the
even see
last
this.
30 years? Yeah, that's a big question. So 30 years, I think Troy puts us back to 1993. And so I have to say, and this is just for me, all 3 are 2020 OBC.
Yes.
Just kidding. That's a joke. Okay, I'm gonna take a stab at really answering this. And it's 30 years is a lot of releases.
Yeah.
But if I had to answer it, I would say 2005-06 The Cup, 2005-06 Ultimate, because you have the Crosby Ovechkin dual rookie class, right? Because of the lockout in 2004. And then this is the riskier one, but man, that 2012 Fleer Retro set that has like the greatest collection of inserts from jambalayas to noise boys to electricity to
Is that PMGs in there?
essential credentials, PMGs. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like crazy awesome.
Yeah.
That's what I go.
So when you were reading your list, I definitely, the Fleer Retro is probably in there for me. I'm going to be honest. I still love SP Signature Edition Legends so much that it's probably in my top set because in the last 3 years, because I'm hoping it's a trend that started with that. And I hope it did so well and everyone loves it so much that they do it in 3 years to another, like they figure out how to run this Legends kind of entry set or this Legends set with some other kind of branding. That's what I hope it leads to. I'm sorry, I didn't even see this question, so off the top of my head, I didn't give you a third, but those 2 for sure.
I know we have so many questions. It's dumb to linger on them, but
I am getting tired. I won't say that.
Can you make the argument that 1990 Upper Deck is one of the most
Maybe
important?
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's kind of started the whole thing, right? For hockey and Upper Deck. Next question, Instagram, Slewfoot Vintage Hockey. Love vintage questions. Give him more. What's your favorite vintage set? Mine is 1968-69 OPG. Troy, go ahead.
51 Parkers, but then I started thinking, well, what's vintage? How old can I go? Because 83, 84 OPG to me. I just love that so much.
We'll call that
much.
vintage.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say Signature Editions Legends.
Right?
Stop. All right. Yeah, I would say I have 2, so I can't just 51 Parkers, 71 OPG. Yeah. Definitely fine. Instagram, Squirrels Collectibles. How do I know the fair value of a card or set that I want to sell if there are no comps? So there's really you have to triangulate your way to a comp. And again, a comp is just a comparable. It's not an absolute. So I would look for comparable cards for the same player and estimate your card based on that, or look for the same card with comparable players, right? So if you think, well, Jason, if it's a Tage Thompson and there isn't a Thompson card, but there's a J-Rob and you think their values are relatively comparable, then you could use that as an analogous case. But you just have to triangulate there and ultimately find a price that whether you're the buyer or the seller, that you're comfortable with.
Yeah. I was gonna say, if it's like a low numbered card, like out of 5 that you can't find a comp, try to find other out of 5s for that player or the comparable player route. I think that's by far the best way to go.
Instagram, ComAv Cards. Does being involved in the hobby help or hurt your fantasy hockey drafting and pickups? All right, Troy, go ahead.
All right. It definitely helps from the fact that I felt I had a lot of knowledge on players. Even if it wasn't that much knowledge, I had a little idea of every player that, would go on the first 16 rounds, we'll say. I think it hurts though, because now how will I have time to do the show and fantasy hockey? There's a lot of research you have to do for fantasy once the season starts and who to start and how many games they're playing in the week and all that fun stuff.
Here's where I think it can hurt a little. You're totally right. Where yeah, so you have so much awareness of the players. It's like if you're like playing video games where you tend to know
Yeah.
the players. Where I think it hurts though, and I felt like I did this in our draft, and I felt like maybe some others did too, is that we value prospects in hockey cards
Yeah.
way more than actual results. Where in fantasy, the value's on results. And so
Yep.
there's a lot of like hot hockey card guys that were drafted that maybe will produce less than some boring kind of like taking Luke Hughes over who's the
Like
like Shea
Stamkos.
Theodore or something like
Yeah.
that, or Alex Petrangelo, right? One of those guys where yeah, Luke Hughes is way sexier from a hockey hobby perspective, but maybe one of those Golden Knights defensemen produces more points,
Yeah.
more fantasy points. Instagram, JB Hockey Cards. To the collectors who can't shell out thousands of dollars on Bedard, what would be a realistic buy it now price for base Young Guns after the release hype wears down? It's a great question, but honestly, there's no way to answer it. It
Yeah.
just I have no idea what's going to happen
There's too many
in
variables. There's too many variables that can happen to
between
either.
now and spring,
Yeah.
and primarily how he plays. I mean, that's going to
Yeah.
be a big factor. How all of his other cards go for, um, how the new configuration, how that's going to affect things. So, yeah, we'll just have to. I don't know how affordable or unaffordable it will be, and a part of me is kind of maybe it's like, well, maybe I won't have a Bedard for a while. Instagram, Danny McCollum 196. Why doesn't the hobby demand cards that are graded be put in a frame like art and not some Kmart cassette case from the 70s? Okay, Danny, this made me laugh a lot. I love the Kmart cassette reference, but I think you might be maybe a slightly younger than we are, because wouldn't it be from the 80s would be more than a like a cassette case?
Mm.
That was maybe late 70s, early 80s, right? When
I
cassettes
always
became
thought
popular.
vinyl. Well, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. But the Kmart
That's
cassette
good.
case reference did make me laugh. I actually think it's a really interesting question. To me, the reason why is that what it seems, and I put myself in this boat, is that collectors want cheap grading.
Yeah.
So you're going to get cheap holders. But maybe there is an opportunity where, as a way to competitively differentiate, kind of like maybe Tag is doing a little bit, their holder looks really nice. Or even an opportunity for a company like PSA to have an upsell into a nicer holder, like for a PC item, where maybe you'll pay $10 more for a little bit better holder. That I could see that happening. But yeah, especially nothing against PSA, because they definitely rule the values side of it. But I don't think anyone would say that their holders are just amazingly beautiful.
Yeah. If not the upsell route, you definitely there's companies out there that do make really nice, I don't know what you call them, frames for your graded cards. Obviously, it's still going to be in the Kmart 70s cassette holder, but then you can get a nice frame, might have the player's name or something like that. There's companies out there that do that, but I kind of like the upsell angle if they did something like that.
Next question, Instagram, professor.card. Which card do you think will be worth more in the long run if Bedard even somewhat lives up to expectations? 2021-22 SP Game Used CHL Edition Blue Autographs with an 8 plus PSA grade, or similarly graded Young Guns. If it's a base Young Guns with a PSA 8 and we're comparing it to a CHL with an auto, I would say the CHL all day long.
Yeah.
Just because I think there's going to be a lot of PSA 9s and 10s. And but if we're talking like comparison to a PSA 10 Young Guns, I'd probably lean towards the Young
Yep.
Guns with the NHL jersey.
Yep. Agree.
Next question, Twitter or X, Sebastian Engelhart. With awesome patches, on-card autos, phenomenal quality, and number to 249, do you think the premier RPAs could join the big three and make a big four rookie cards down the road? Huge fan of the S-State rookie cards from Premier. The ones that just came out for 2021 look great. And honestly, like, it feels like for Premier to be a premium product, that both that card and the mega patches kind of have to become that signature of the brand. And we talked about before, I think the highest selling Premier hockey card ever is like 10 grand.
Yeah, it's not that much.
It's not that, I mean, it's a lot of money, but you compare to
Yeah.
Ultimate where you have $100,000
Yep.
sales, and but they are super nice, and I really, really like them. So yeah, I would love to see it happen. I just don't know how long it'll take.
Yep.
Instagram, Slewfoot Vintage Hockey. Who is your most underappreciated player UPC? My favorite is probably Yari Curry. So I like Peter Stastny. Troy, you have anyone?
I actually do have a little Yari Curry collection, which I agree with that he is underappreciated, and you can usually find really nice auto stuff for pretty reasonable prices. I do think personally Pekka Rinne is underappreciated, but like I said, if you don't win a cup, tough to get tough to get a lot of appreciation for. He does have a Vezina, no cup though. I like his historical significance. Just he's kind of started the run on the new wave of the Finnish or the Scandinavian goalies, but that's just me personally. That's I mean most of the guys. I mean I have PC Onger, Mike Bob. Obviously they're Onger's early in his
Well,
career.
UPC goalies, and they're
Yeah,
forever underappreciated. Other than
yeah, true.
Patrick Waugh. Last question. It's a good one too. Made me think. I had never. Instagram, Southie Schmike. For Upper Deck cards that have a team's name like Rangers, Wild, Kings, etc., have you noticed that Nashville cards never just say Predators? Cards always either have Nashville or Nashville Predators, even when other cards in the set just have the team name. Why is Upper Deck avoiding having Predators on a card by itself? Well, I'll just say I had never noticed this, Troy, and then I looked it up. I didn't do extensive research, like
Yeah.
5 minutes, and it does seem to be true. I looked up, went through like 100 or so very fast Roman Yossi cards. It has to, in my mind, if it is the case, it has to do with the connotation of just the word predator.
Yep. Agree. That was the first thing that came to my head when I read the question. I was like, if it's true, probably because predator can have a really bad connotation by itself in a certain use. So that's probably why.
We made it. The end of the show. Personal pickups. As always, Troy, you always go first.
Well, I did rip open my 2020-21 OPG paper hobby boxes that I ordered when we were at the card show that I ordered online because I was at a card show. Why not? A lot of fun to rip. Didn't get anything big, and which I didn't expect, but a lot of fun.
I got to kind of tell the funny thing about that. We were with good friend Louie, who lives in our town, is a triple gold member, helps us out in Discord a lot, and he was very kind to have us over for our fantasy hockey draft, and we each had boxes to rip. You had got like 2 other like Marvel boxes. You had 5 total boxes, and wasn't it like the 5th box and like the 3rd of the last pack when you say, oh, I don't know where my top loaders are, and then we kind of all realized that when you get to the point where you're 5 boxes deep and you're just now trying to find top loaders, that's not a good sign.
Yeah, I got a nice auto in Loki, but or not Loki. It wasn't even Loki. It was WandaVision. I got a nice auto, but I'm like, oh, needed 1 top loader for all those boxes.
So to our fantasy hockey get together with Louie, I bought a couple boxes as well, and I bought a box of 2021 metal, and then a box of Ultimate Collection as well for the most recent 2021. So I opened the metal, and I was lucky enough I pulled a redemption for Cole Caulfield.
Yep.
Premium Prospects. It's the 80 or 98.99 retro auto. Pretty high pack odds, like 1 in 19,814 packs. Kind of a cool looking card. I did some very brief hemming and hawing and decided I just redeemed it right there.
Yep.
Partly because I saw this copy, and this is not my card. It's a copy I saw on eBay. So it gave me the indication that, well, the card is ready to roll, that they have it in stock.
Yep.
And I got the notice that they hope to ship it out soon, and it is in stock. So I'm kind of excited to see what that one looks like in person. Then I open up my box of Ultimate, and I don't want to talk about it. It was not good. One more pickup. I got one of the bigger 90s cards is Run for the Cup with like the Gretzky and Lemieux, and going back to Frank Porco and our late 90s inserts and parallels. And so this is Kaprizov's first run for the Cup. It was really cheap. It's out of 99.
Yep.
I just haven't got a cool Kaprizov card in a long time, so I decided to pick it up. It was like $20.
Awesome.
Nothing big. Well, that's our show. If you like the episode, please leave a rating and review on Apple, Spotify, or whatever podcast app you listen to us on. If you love the show, you want to support us, you want to join us in Discord, join our kind of ever-growing community and develop friendships there and do fantasy hockey and 5K challenge and stuff like that, please consider a $5 a month donation. Join our out of $1.99 support level tier on Patreon. Link is in the show description or YouTube description for whatever show description, I guess, for whatever podcast app you're listening to us on. You go to our website, hockeycardsgongshow.com, click on the Become a Patron link, go to Patreon's website, patreon.com, search for our show there, or it's in our Instagram and TikTok profiles and our link tree. We are on social media, so please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, and subscribe on YouTube, please. And Troy, the Hockey Cards Gongshow podcast is a production of Dollar Box Ventures, LLC. Hockey is back. Cannot wait to come back on Thursday and complain that the season's over for the month. See you then.